Part 79. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 811. You came. After climbing the steps to the third floor and before walking inside, Su Tong's ears moved and he heard a soft cry coming from the room in front of him. When Su Tong heard this, he felt an unprecedented feeling in his heart. This was something that had never happened before when facing the old magic stick. His footsteps were almost silent. How did this old magician know that someone was coming? At the thought of this, Su Tong's pupils opened, with golden light shining in his eyes, and he looked directly at the old magic stick in the room through the door. I saw the old magic stick sitting cross-legged with a peaceful expression, holding a flower finger in his left hand and a dharma seal in his right hand. The sun shone behind him through the window, giving people a sense of transcendence from this world. However, when Su Tong looked up and down the old magic stick several times, he didn't see anything unusual about this guy. At this time, the old magic stick suddenly opened his eyes, and his black and white pupils looked at Su Tong through the door. The corners of his stubble-covered mouth gradually raised. "Child, I told you a long time ago that I have been waiting for you. One day you will find that I have never told you a lie. I am God, the real God. All things once crawled and trembled under my feet, and you will eventually become my believer. Go to hell with your uncle's followers." Su Tong started swearing when he opened his mouth. Although he didn't know how this guy noticed him, Su Tong never believed a word of this lunatic since he was a child. "No, don't say a word, I don't believe even half of it." Because people who believe in him often die miserably. Su Tong once saw someone suddenly go crazy and jump downstairs after only saying a few words to this old magician. Even this guy's attending physician was almost paralyzed by the deception. It was said that when he was captured, he had already proclaimed himself the leader of the cult and controlled dozens of people to become his followers. Although he admitted that this guy was quite capable, he would never believe a word he said. In the past, Su Tong would not say a word to him. Every time, he would look at him, turn around and leave. But today was an exception. Su Tong wanted to hear what else this magic stick could say. Walking to the door and opening the iron door, Su Tong raised his chin and looked down at the old man, stuck out his tongue, and said provocatively, "You are so stupid, why do you come out and beat me?" The old magic stick sighed, "Now is not the time to go out." "Then when is the time?" Su Tong asked. A smile filled the corners of the old magic stick's mouth. Su Tong had never seen that kind of smile on the old magic stick's face. It seems normal, but there is a creepy evil atmosphere inside and out. When I walk out from here, all the heavens will tremble, the heavens will suppress me, the earth will repel me, my one thought will extend to 108,000 realms, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will shed tears, and my followers will be slaughtered. The earth, use thousands of creatures to make sacrifices for me." After saying that, his eyes were suddenly like thunder and lightning. He looked directly at Su Tong, and slowly stretched out a palm. "You are the first sacrifice that I will cut with my hand. I will use your blood to dye my murals red. Your soul composes a war song for me." The old magician became more and more excited as he talked. He sat up from the ground and jumped to the window behind him. He grabbed the iron railing with both hands and shook it wildly. He took off his pants while shaking. "Go to hell with all the gods and Buddhas, go to hell with the heaven and earth. I am a god. Come and receive my blessings, ha ha ha." Seeing the old magician acting like a husky in heat, sticking out his tongue and standing on the window with his fangs pointing into the sun, Su Tong rolled his eyes. "I almost believed you, you idiot. Close the observation window, turn around and walk towards the last room." Opening the door, a light was on in the dim room, and a Yu song in which Zhujiang beheaded Ma Dai with tears was playing on the radio. Seeing Su Tong, Olda couldn't help but be a little surprised. "Hey, didn't I ask Wu Ji to say, you guys can come back the day after tomorrow?" "Oh, he and I just happened to miss each other. Su Tong said casually, then sat aside and took out a prepared earth-fired wine jar from the props book. This was 40 years of May family aging wine, and a bag of peanuts, and placed it on the table. Hey, you're promising. This wine is good, but it's a bit wasteful to pair it with these peanuts. Olda picked up the wine bottle, opened it, took a sniff, and smashed it into his mouth, his eyes showing a bit of joy and a bit of regret. Hasn't that person taken any medicine recently? Su Tong pointed to the next door. Olda shook his head helplessly. I stopped taking the medicine for a while. Some time ago, a few men and women came to inquire about you, and then the hospital became like this. Su Tong clenched his fists unconsciously when he heard this, and when he was about to ask about the whereabouts of these people, Olda interrupted Su Tong without warning. I don't know where they went. These people didn't find any valuable information. I'm afraid they messed up the hospital as a warning to you. Olda said, took out 2 cups and put them on the table. You're here, don't leave in a hurry, drink some with me here. As he said that, he filled up the drink. When Su Tong heard this, he felt suspicious, but after thinking about it, he was relieved. Although he grew up here, there is very little information left behind, and no one knows about his relationship with Lao A. Naturally, he will not cause more trouble. Thinking of this, Su Tong felt relieved. It's rare to come back, and I didn't plan to leave so early. I've had enough wine today, so I'll celebrate your birthday in advance. Su Tong picked up the wine glass with a smile and drank first as a token of respect. After a glass of wine was in his mouth, a smile suddenly appeared on Old A's face. You kid, there's something wrong. Su Tong nodded, pinched a handful of peanuts and put it in his mouth. I went out for a walk and looked at the cute children in the arms of other people's parents. I felt uncomfortable. I want to ask you, what are my parents? People. Before Olda could speak, Su Tong hurriedly stretched out his hand. Don't fool me with those old stories. A smart kid like me doesn't look like the child of a madman and a nurse. Ha! The older you get, the harder it is to lie to you. Olda pointed at Su Tong with a smile, then turned around and rummaged around on the bookshelf. Hey, where did you put it? I remember I put it here. Hey, as people get older, their brains become more and more arrogant. It doesn't work. Su Tong wanted to stand up and help, but Olda quickly waved his hand. Hey, don't move. These treasures of mine are very valuable. If you make a mess, it will take me a long time to clean it up. Hey, here it is. Old A's eyes lit up and he took out a thick old book from the bookshelf. I don't know how many years ago this book was. The cover of the book was no longer visible. There was a thick smell on the yellowed pages. The smell of moldy dust. Su Tong kept a careful eye and glanced at the name of the book, The Rainbow of Gravity. Olda carefully opened the page and took out 2 black and white photos. Carefully handed the photo to Su Tong. This is your 100-day photo. A camera is a good thing. It can always leave something behind in the years. Su Tong took it and saw that he was being held by several guys wearing hospital gowns. Some of the old people are quite familiar to me. Some of them taught me ventriloquism, some taught me how to sing, and some taught me how to read and write. But there are also many people he has never seen. According to Old A, many of them have passed away. It is normal that Su Tong has never seen them. The background of the photo is actually this old building. Su Tong tried hard to find figures that seemed to be his parents, but after looking around, he found nothing. Then Lao handed over another photo. This is a photo of your parents and you. Hearing this, Su Tong immediately became excited. He quickly took the photo and took a look. He was immediately disappointed. He saw that he was still an infant in the photo and was indeed being held in the arms of a couple. But the strange thing is that the photo is blurred. The upper half, starting from the shoulder, is completely black and nothing can be seen. Su Tong frowned and looked at Old A, but Old A waved his hand, "Don't look at me, it was like this when it was developed." The dean at the time went to several photo studios, but when they saw the negatives, they said I couldn't do anything about it, so I just kept this photo. Su Tong was dubious about Old A's words, but he didn't say anything. After putting the photos away, he asked the last question, "Then my parents have names, right? I'm getting older, let me think about it." Olda covered his forehead, "Hey, your parents' names." Olda held his head in his hands, and after thinking hard for a while, his voice became smaller and smaller. Su Tong came over and took a look, and found that the old guy had fallen asleep. Seeing this, Su Tong had no choice but to pick up the blanket next to him and cover Old A. "Okay, it seems we have to wait until the day after tomorrow." As he spoke, Su Tong looked around, stood up and walked out. After Su Tong walked out of the critical illness isolation building and entered the hospital lobby, he found that the hospital had become a mess. All kinds of people were running, jumping, and even rolling on the ground. This is obviously a big trouble. If the news spreads, it will probably become a big news soon. Thinking of this, Su Tong did not intend to stay longer and was about to walk out. Suddenly something occurred to me and I glanced at the surveillance camera at the entrance of the hospital. I frowned and simply turned around and went back. But the moment he walked into the hospital door, the mentally ill people who were still fighting around suddenly turned their heads and focused all their attention on Su Tong. Aha! A black shadow suddenly flashed in front of everyone, and a biting wind hit them. Wind god kills. The moment the black shadow rushed up, the figures scattered like thousands of after images, and then they all rushed towards Su Tong. Su Tong frowned and stepped back half a step. Then he raised his palm and patted it gently in the air. Suddenly, an after image appeared as if he had hit Su Tong's palm, and he fell directly. He fell to the ground, clutching his chest in pain. The surrounding after images also suddenly disappeared. "It's you." Su Tong was shocked when he saw this person. This person was the guy who was knocked unconscious by him in the archives room just now. But judging from the way he just started, this guy was definitely a player and not very strong. Has not yet reached the certification level. Did he make a mistake? Just when Su Tong was confused, the psychopaths around him had already taken neat steps to form a human wall, approaching step by step. Everyone's aura began to change, but when Su Tong looked carefully, he found that these people's expressions were dull and their eyes were blurry, as if they were being controlled by someone's mind. Seeing this wall of people approaching him, Su Tong looked around and then suddenly jumped up. His figure was like a rock. The next moment, he passed through the wall of people, tiptoeing towards the hospital. "Go straight out." His speed was not fast, so in an instant, 4 or 5 players were following him to catch up. A player took out a long knife from the prop book, and when he swung the blade, he cut out a sword energy, cutting a 3 cm deep hole in the ground, and like a shark's fin, it struck Su Tong. When Su Tong saw this, he just glanced at it, quietly quickened his pace on his toes, and dodged the knife lightly. Kill. One person opened his palm, and Su Tong suddenly noticed that the time around him began to stand still. Time prop card. This can't help but make him a little surprised. He didn't expect that the strength of these controlled players was not ordinary people. However, before the time-bound power came closer, Su Tong just snorted coldly, exuding a magnificent aura, and forcefully broke away from the shackles. Land gods are not easily restrained by these prop cards alone. Even without the use of divine vision, Su Tong can clearly feel the distortion and changes in the power of time around him, and can easily escape from it. Just at this moment, the identities of 6 or 7 players behind him were exposed. Seeing this, Su Tong no longer wanted to be entangled. He turned sideways and hid in the fire escape nearby. After taking a glance and confirming that there were no cameras here, Su Tong suddenly turned around, and the aura on his body also changed dramatically in an instant. For a moment, the blood was like a rainbow, soaring straight into the sky. The Ruyi furnace of the great sun appeared behind him, and his figure was shrouded in a terrifying aura, like a god. Before these players could rush over, Su Tong's pupils narrowed, and in the next moment, the pure yang sword turned into a sharp light, and with it Su Tong's figure passed directly through these players. The speed is too fast, even if these people are not controlled, they cannot dodge at all. Their throats were instantly sealed by Su Tong's sword, and as blood spurted out from their throats, the pupils of these people gradually became clear, but the strange thing was that instead of hating Su Tong, they showed a look of relief in their eyes. Su Tong put away these people's prop books and didn't bother to look at them. He turned around and ran straight to the monitoring room. He wanted to find out what happened, and checking surveillance was undoubtedly a good choice. Pushing open the door of the surveillance room, the security guard inside had disappeared, and he didn't know if he was locked up somewhere. Su Tong sat in front of the computer, opened the hospital's surveillance screen, and then started to flip through it. The surveillance images in recent days were all normal, but when the time jumped to noon yesterday, everyone in the hospital suddenly became sluggish, as if someone had instantly controlled everyone's consciousness. Immediately afterwards, Su Tong saw a figure walking out of the crowd and standing in the lobby of the hospital. This man was wearing a shabby hospital gown. He slowly raised his head, looked at the surveillance camera, and grinned at the surveillance camera. Seeing this familiar face, Su Tong's pupils trembled. In the surveillance screen, the time in the upper left corner was beating strangely. Every frame and every second were randomly beating, and the background was also constantly changing. Switch repeatedly during time. Only the face that was getting closer to the surveillance camera gradually became clear. It was none other than the old bastard whom he despised. He seemed to be looking at Su Tong through the camera. "Bad boy, I wanted to wait a little longer, but you are always so disobedient." The magic stick stretched out his finger and tapped the monitor. "Are you surprised? Ha 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 ha, brat, do you want to know the whereabouts of your parents? You are not qualified yet." The magic stick said and took 2 steps back. "I'll show you something interesting and fun." I saw the magic stick slowly stretching out his palm and grabbing it forward. The screen in the surveillance camera quickly regressed. The next moment something happened that made Su Tong's scalp numb. A figure in a white coat was walking past the magic stick with his head lowered, and this person Su Tong recognized was the scene when he escaped from here. But something strange happened. The magic stick in the picture suddenly approached him, shook the dagger in his hand, and then gently slid it on the back of Su Tong's hand in front of him. Bah! Su Tong lowered his head and saw a shallow scar appeared on the back of his hand. Seeing this scene, cold sweat began to form on Su Tong's forehead. In other words, this guy could completely travel through time to kill himself at this moment. Just when Su Tong was in doubt, the magic stick walked to the surveillance screen, and the time in the upper left corner of the surveillance screen was also changing rapidly. "Hee, Olda said that he left a gift for you in the room. Remember to get it? I have to go back to sleep, so Olda gave me half a day off." As he spoke, the figure of the magic stick gradually disappeared from the surveillance screen. With the disappearance of the magic stick, the surveillance gradually returned to normal, but no matter how Su Tong searched, he could not find any trace of the magic stick. What's even weirder is that when Su Tong switched to real-time monitoring, the scene on the screen shocked him even more. In the picture, the entrance and exit of the hospital are orderly, and everything in the hospital is normal. There is neither a psychopath nor a lunatic. The patients are queuing up to register normally. Su Tong was stunned when he saw this. Buzz. At this time, the door was pushed open, and 2 security guards carrying beer and lunch walked in. They were obviously startled when they saw Su Tong. Seeing this, Su Tong could only helplessly cover his face and let out a bitter laugh. Bang, bang. A muffled sound was heard in the monitoring room. When Su Tong walked out of the monitoring room the next second, he saw that everything in the hospital was just as he saw from the real-time monitoring. Everything was calm. The picture he had seen before, that didn't happen at all. How many times have I told you, this is a hospital, go home and play with your phone. Director Kang's scolding came from the corridor. Su Tong glanced and saw that he was sternly scolding a trainee nurse. Hiss. Seeing this, Su Tong couldn't help but take a breath. At this moment, he suddenly felt how ridiculous these 4 words, "Land God," were. He turned and walked towards the backyard, passing through the sycamore tree in the courtyard. He looked back, only to find that the leaves of the sycamore tree had begun to turn yellow. This is summer, and winter is still far away. However, when he arrived at the building in the quarantine area, he found that the building had turned into an abandoned building. A cordon was put up in front of the door, and a large word "DIM" was written on the wall with dark red paint. Seeing this, Su Tong's lips twitched and he called Chang Wahen in the team channel, "If you are fine now, come to the hospital as soon as possible." "Are you in the hospital now?" Chang Wenzhen's voice on the channel was surprised. He didn't expect Su Tong to carry him directly to the hospital. "Then wait for me, I'll be there soon." After Chang Wahen finished speaking, Su Tong stood in front of the door and waited for about a minute before he saw Chang Wahen rushing over. As he walked, he complained to Su Tong, "We agreed that we would come together the day after tomorrow. Why did you, this, how?" Chang Wahen didn't even finish his words. He looked at the dilapidated old building with the word "Hail" written in front of him, and his eyes widened with disbelief on his face. Immediately, Chang was free to tear open the cordon and walked in quickly. As soon as he opened the door, a rotten smell hit his face, and everything he looked at was completely in ruins. It was as if this place had just been demolished. After exiting the iron gate, the doors, windows, and tables in the room had all been moved away. There was no one inside. Su Tong stepped on the broken bricks under his feet, and Chang walked up one level at a time. The first floor was like a ruin, and the same was true for the second floor. The peeling wall coverings and the thick dust on the ground, this no one has come to the place for at least 2 or 3 years. Until the 2 of them arrived on the 3rd floor, Su Tong first walked to Shengun's room, pushed open the iron door, and found that there was nothing in the room. Even the iron bars that originally blocked the doors and windows were smashed down. Su Tong's heart sank even more at this moment, and he turned around and walked to Old A's room. As soon as he entered the door, he saw that the room was in a mess, and all the items were thrown on the floor. The books that Old A regarded as treasures were thrown on the ground like garbage. They were tattered by the rain and dust. At this time, Su Tong suddenly noticed that there was a wine jar in the corner. After wiping off the dust on the wine jar, a plum blossom suddenly appeared on the wine jar. Seeing this, Su Tong realized something. This wine jar was actually the Magia wine he had just brought. But this place is not what it looked like when I came here. How could this happen? How could this happen? I was fine when I came here before. Chang Wahen's face was full of disbelief, and his head was buzzing. There had been no trace of anyone here for several years, but he had just arrived not long ago. At this time, Su Tong probably understood what was going on. This is what it will look like in a few decades. Decades from now. Chang Wahen looked at Su Tong with a blank expression. I wonder if Su Tong is talking crazy at this time. Time has no meaning to the gods. They can freely travel through any time and space, and they can also distort a period of time and space at will. Su Tong took a deep breath. This sentence was the answer he got when he asked the old Taoist before. I couldn't understand it at the time, and it wasn't until this moment that I understood how the real gods distorted time and space. Thinking of this, Su Tong quickly walked to the door of Shengun's room, staring at the empty room in front of him. In a daze, he had a strong premonition that at this moment, he still hadn't come out, he was still here. He was even looking into his own eyes across time and space. It's just that the two people are not at the same point in time. The plots of the two chapters were difficult to separate, so I wrote them together. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 812. After looking at each other for a moment, Su Tong returned to Old A's room. This room was full of devastation, as if he had walked into a garbage dump. Su Tong looked at the position where Old A usually sat, and couldn't help but complain, "Old man, if you don't want to tell me, just tell me directly. What are you doing with all this? You don't pretend anymore? Is it a god? It's amazing." After complaining, Su Tong began to patiently search for the so-called gift. Chang Wen still hasn't recovered yet, and keeps asking Su Tong what happened. Su Tong answered Chang Wuju in very simple words, "I don't know." It's not that he doesn't want to explain, but that this issue cannot be explained clearly in 1 or 2 sentences. Well, it's actually because my cultural level is too low to understand, but I can't express it clearly. While rummaging, Su Tong suddenly remembered the book from before. He scanned it left and right and found it under the bed. He picked it up and opened it. Only then did he realize that the middle of the book had been hollowed out, and there was a pipe inside. To be precise, it is a cigarette pot and a cigarette holder, without the cigarette rod in the middle. Of course, the cigarette rod probably won't fit in either. Is this a gift? Su Tong took the pipe in his hand and looked at it carefully. He saw that the pipe was carved from ivory, but the picture carved on it surprised Su Tong. Coffins floated on the water one by one. The styles of the coffins were different, but the details of each coffin were carved very clearly. Su Tong counted 7 coffins in total. Looking at these coffins, Su Tong couldn't help but think of the coffins of the dead god he saw in Dokang. The style of these coffins is so similar to that of the god of death. Go, is it possible that Old A and the others have something to do with the god of death? This thought appeared in his mind, which made Su Tong feel scared. The trip to the underworld not only improved his strength, but also opened his horizons to a certain extent. The god of death is not tolerated by heaven and earth, and is taboo in the underworld. According to what Po Meng and King Ling Huo said at that time, the gods of death were the most primitive gods. To sleep forever through death, once revived, it will cause a huge disaster, which the gods will not tolerate. Do you want to be related to the god of death? But then he thought about it, it wouldn't be a big deal even if they were related. There are thousands of ghosts and gods in the underworld, and you can only offend half of them by yourself. During this trip to the underworld, I basically offended everything that I could and could not offend. Su Tong didn't dare to think about it now. If he died accidentally in the future, he would have many enemies when his soul returned to the underworld. I'm afraid I can't even pass the Mengpo soup test alone. Thinking of Po Meng's old face with a wicked smile, she came up to her with a bowl of green and bubbling Mengpo soup. "Da Lang, let's drink the soup." Hiss. The picture appeared in his mind, and Su Tong couldn't help but feel excited. His scalp was numb. It was really terrible. So when he thought about being related to the god of death, not only was he not afraid, but he also felt that it was a good way out. What if my mother is really the god of death? Then wouldn't it be true that I was not a bastard of the god of death, and could I have a good time when I died? But thinking about it, Su Tong still feels that the best outcome for him is to escape to the west. No matter whether he goes to the western bliss or the western hell, even if he is a birdman in the western paradise, he can always have a prosperous life. Not bad. Seeing that his thoughts were getting more and more distorted, Su Tong quickly stopped his random thoughts, turned the pipe over and took a look, and saw that the back of the pipe was also exquisitely carved with ivory. But the content of the sculpture looks very abstract, like a huge palace, but as long as the angle is changed, the palace will become a furnace, with countless bones floating in it, like an altar. Su Tong couldn't understand this. Then he looked at the cigarette holder. The cigarette holder was made of a kind of high-quality Hessian jade, and it also had a specially hollowed pattern. The complex texture made it impossible to see anything for a while. But since there is so much information left on the pot, the pipe cannot be so careless. Su Tong pondered these messy patterns for a moment, then took out the cinnabar ink from the prop book, lightly traced a layer of bright red ink on it, then took out a piece of yellow paper and lightly painted on it. Roll, a line of strange talismans appeared on the yellow paper. It's Yanshu. Looking at the strange talisman on it, Su Tong immediately recognized it in his heart. This talisman was completely different from the Taoist talismans that were activated by orders in the name of the three pure ones and gods. The talismans are completely natural, and each stroke may seem chaotic, but they have the mystery of the atmosphere of heaven and earth. This is the unique characteristic of Yanshu. Su Tong threw the pipe and talisman into the prop book. As a result, there is no other information about the pipe except the 4 words ivory pipe, as if it is just an ordinary pipe. On the contrary, the talisman actually gave out a prop card. Chaos 7 stars curse. It consumes 200 script points and activates it to cause a 7-star shield of chaos to appear around itself. Chaos 7-star shield, immune to chaos damage and immune to the effects of chaos force fields. Duration, 30 minutes. Looking at the information given in the prop book, Su Tong was sure that this was indeed the gift that Olda called. It's just that no matter how you look at this charm, it doesn't seem to be of much use. Chaos damage was something you would never encounter in 800 years, but since it was left on the pipe, Su Tong guessed that it had a special effect. The two searched around again, but found nothing, so they simply left the hospital. After walking out of the hospital gate, Chang Wuja glared at Su Tong with a resentful look on his face and looked at the time on his watch. What originally took a few days, you finished it for me in less than 4 hours after you came back. Su Tong also looked helpless. Who would have thought he would look like this? In fact, he had already vaguely guessed in his mind the reason why the old man asked them to go the day after tomorrow. He estimated that the old man was going to give them a big scare by then. Who would have thought that Su Tong would run over in advance? But even if it is the day after tomorrow, I guess the result should be similar. Since Old A and the others chose to hide in the mental hospital, they obviously had no intention of leaving in a short time. This time, because of his wanted order, a group of flies came out. I guess Old A and the others were also annoyed, so they did this. Those players who are controlled are the evidence of their own thoughts. What about us now? Let's agree first. I don't plan to meet up with Gao Zhou and the others so early. I haven't had enough of Luodu soup yet. When Chang Wahen talked about soup, the glutton in his stomach arose again. Su Tong calmly said that he could stay here until the next script world begins. This period of time was just enough to digest his own strength, so he planned to spend all this time at the training ground until he completely digested his strength. After the two made up their minds, they took a ride to Chang Wahen's residence, Huayang Century, which was considered a top residential area in Luodu. Chang was free and had no shortage of money, so he spent a high price to buy a 300 square meter flat. The interior was already decorated when he bought it, and he could just move in with his bags. There were many rooms, and Su Tong didn't choose one because he didn't plan to live here. He directly used his privileges to enter the Script Killing Experience Center. Ding! Along with the sound of the bell when opening the door, Su Tong looked at the newly decorated front hall and couldn't help but his eyes lit up. The decoration is good, much better than the previous coffee shop. Aimee poked her head out from under the front desk and was stunned for a moment when she saw Su Tong. After looking at Su Tong, she was slightly surprised and said, "Jean Deo." Then he joked to Su Tong with a smile on his face and said, "Congratulations, Congratulations, the gods from the land are here. It's so glorious. A day ago, Su Tong would have been complacent when facing his sister's congratulations. However, after seeing the strength of the old magic stick, Su Tong was extremely disgusted with the words land god. Unconsciously, he glanced at the scar on the back of his hand and felt that the wound was getting more glaring, as uncomfortable as a fish bone stuck in his throat. In his opinion, the move of the magic stick is nothing more than a threat. No matter how strong he is or how far he has gone, if this guy wants to kill him, he can easily kill him at any time when he walks out of the hospital. Own. Ame saw that he looked a little reluctant, and her long and slender eyebrows slightly raised. What, sister, if you say today, are you flattering me? Su Tong hurriedly shook his head, sat down and thought for a moment before asking, if two very powerful gods fight and one cannot defeat him, can they travel through time and space to another timeline and take advantage of the other's weakness? When is the time to kill the other party? Hearing this, Ame couldn't help but be a little surprised, and looked at Su Tong with deep eyes. The gods can distort time, but the price paid must not be underestimated. The greater the impact, the greater the price, so there is such a saying, the past cannot be changed and the future cannot be trusted. The past is an ironclad fact, and not everyone can change it. For example, Su Tong had such an idea. There were gods who wanted to do this, but the result is as you can imagine. Not only did they not kill this great enemy, and even almost suffered a time backlash and died suddenly on the spot. Ame pinched her fingers and touched Su Tong's forehead. You, just be at ease. The only thing you can control about the past, present and future is now. Hearing this, Su Tong grabbed Ame's little hand, with a playful smile on his face as if he wanted to be beaten. I understand, if you grab sister's hand, you will seize this summer. Ame rolled her eyes. Come on, sister, I don't care about your behavior, so hurry up and get on with it. I want to remind you of something. Su Tong touched Ame's little hand, took out a bottle of skin cream from nowhere, and applied it carefully on his little hand. Hearing Ame's words, he raised his head and looked at her. Ame's expression was a little heavy, and she took a deep breath and said, Ty's sentence is about to expire. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 813. Taiwan. Su Tong frowned, thinking of the white-haired ghost. His eyes showed a bit of coldness, and his voice became gloomy. Isn't it a 17-year sentence? He was released in such a short time. After all, it was less than a year. Su Tong felt that it was more like being detained for a fight and being detained for more than 10 days. Ame was also helpless about this. Wujianhai, this place is special. The flow of time is more than 10 times faster than outside, but it is very torturous inside. Every second is magnified infinitely. The torture of life is worse than death. The punishments in Taiwan are very harsh, including punishment from heaven, death from sleep, heartbreak, and capital punishment. Any one of them is unbearable. The three punishments are imminent, which is even more inhuman torture. Most people may not be able to bear it for long before their souls are gone. But Tai still persisted, which shows that this guy is definitely not a good person. When he comes back this time, he will definitely not let go of what happened last time, not to mention that Su Tong also took away his most precious collection, the fantasy Rubik's Cube. But you don't need to worry too much. With your current rank, he doesn't pose much of a threat to you. It's hard to overstate the difference between the treatment of certified players and non-certified players. Taiwan can do whatever it wants with non-certified players, but even though they can apply for arbitration, Taiwan does not dare to blatantly disadvantage Su Tong in the face of certified players who have such great authority. If Su Tong is annoyed, Su Tong can completely terminate the connection with this script killing experience center and switch to another script killing experience center. You know, there is not just one script killing experience center, and each of them has extremely high assessment standards for certified players. Losing a certified player may not have much impact, but if this player is the leader of the team, once he transfers, he will take a large number of people away, and the impact will be greater. So Aimee just reminded him, but she didn't worry him too much. After listening to Aimee's explanation, Su Tong immediately relaxed a lot, but this also means that it may not be so easy for Aimee to facilitate herself in the future. Oh, by the way, my current rank is a LV3 certified player. Do I have any privileges that I didn't know about before? Su Tong remembered the upgrade of his certification rank and asked in passing. I'll give you this manual. Read it carefully yourself. Aimee took out a small manual from under the bar and handed it to Su Tong. Su Tong opened it and took a look. It contained the levels of certified players. After a quick glance, he suddenly raised his eyebrows, ignored the complicated words above, and pointed to the top level. What does the title player mean? The literal meaning is, 6 regiments, 2 gods, 8 evils, 3 dukes, 5 elders, and 4 directions. Have you heard of them? Su Tong nodded. When you reach LV5 and are recognized by 1/10 of the players, you will be able to get a special achievement. This special achievement can be upgraded, but it requires the recognition of a large number of players. Only 1/3 of the players can recognize you. There is an opportunity to be promoted to a title player. So that's it. Okay, I know, the old rules, a bottle of lucky potion. Su Tong nodded, then took out 3,000 script points and bought a bottle of lucky potion. He said goodbye to his sister and walked into the exhibition. Entering the exhibition, Su Tong did not enter the high-end exhibition area directly. Instead, after strolling around the low-level exhibition area, he met Gu Zibai in the overseas shopping area. Although he is wearing a disguise, this guy's stall is so easy to recognize. The most conspicuous place is that his stall is the largest, and where all kinds of basic prop cards are placed, other players' stalls around him can't compete with them. His ratio. Especially when this guy comes, the entire overseas shopping area will explode. The large number of basic prop cards directly affects the pricing power of the overseas shopping area. Gu Zibai just wanted to sell the goods as soon as possible, so he basically sold them at a low price. Even so, the other stalls were crowded out and he lost his temper. There is no way, they are also basic prop cards. Gu Zibai's side is not only comprehensive, but the most important thing is that many of the prop cards are rare and exquisite. For example, the 5 elements Bagua stick, although it is a basic item card, it also comes with 1 passive and 1 active skill. For this reason, the price would have doubled in the past. But now it is still being sold at a low price, which naturally attracts a rush of people. Seeing this guy's prosperous business, Su Tong shouted in the team channel, "How is it? Business looks good." Hearing Su Tong's voice, Gu Zibai was stunned for a moment, raised his head, looked around, and said with a smile, "Is the head here to check the post?" "Haha, I stopped by to see you." "Hey, business is not easy. We have too many prop cards. If we sell them at a low price, I almost cry. These are all good things." Gu Zibai started to complain and complain again. After all, these basic prop cards are very rare and high-quality products, so it is a pity to sell them at such a low price. Let's take action as soon as possible, we are short of money now. Only when you become a master do you realize that firewood, rice, oil, and salt are expensive. The more you earn, the less you can spend on script points. Even if you still have 20,000 script points on hand, these script points are not enough to enter the high-end exhibition area. Not to mention, the prop cards in my hand are all expensive, and none of them are cheap. In fact, there is no difference between players and people in real life. When they are poor, they think that 10,000 or 20,000 is money. When they are rich, they think that 10,000 or 20,000 is nothing. Moreover, time is precious. In the final analysis, these prop cards are just basic prop cards and will not be of much help to them. The more serious thing is to get rid of them as soon as possible and earn a sum of money. As for the casino, Su Tong actually has no intention of going there again. Although the money comes in quickly there, he will lose if he gambles for a long time. Good luck does not mean that everything will go as planned. A sudden overturn can mean that everything goes wrong. As for making money, he still had to find a long-term development path. After signaling Gu Zibai to speed up, Su Tong got up and left, and came to the tavern where Yang Zixuan often met in the past. Still at his original position, Su Tong ordered 2 glasses of beer as usual, placed one on the seat in front of the table, took out a cigar from the props book, lit the fire and took a sip, and with the lingering green smoke, he raised the beer in his hand. Clinking with the wine glass in front of you to show your respect. Then I saw him calling out the prop book and taking out another prop book from the prop book. These prop books are the prop books of the players who were killed by him in the hospital. Su Tong has no sympathy for these people. An ordinary lunatic asylum, what are so many players doing here? Now that you're full, do you want to chat about the world with crazy people? Come on, to put it bluntly, they still want to check their own information and find their weaknesses, but they never imagined that they had fallen into a wolf's den, and they had been fooled. Of course, I didn't expect that my gentle village would turn out to be a ghost place that eats people without spitting out their bones. It has to be said that these killer guys have quite a lot of funds in their hands, ranging from 20,000 to 5,000. Su Tong was not polite. He checked it over and confirmed that he did not have the prop card he needed, and then directly drew it. The opponent's script points. After rummaging through 3 props books, Su Tong frowned slightly. The props book in his hand actually contained nearly 30,000 script points. This was a windfall, but Su Tong did not immediately choose to draw points for the script, and looked carefully at the prop book. This person should be a master who focuses on assassination. Almost all the prop cards in the prop book are related to assassination. Once it takes action, it will explode with powerful lethality, enough to kill people beyond a level. The most important thing is that Su Tong saw a time prop card. Recalling the scene when he was being chased by these people in the hospital, there was indeed a moment when the time around him changed strangely and was almost frozen. It's a pity that he has already cut off the path and can clearly feel the changes in time distortion around him, so he can easily break free. If you don't kill yourself, once the opponent uses this item card to freeze the time around you, what awaits you in the next second may be an unbearable burst of damage. Even if you can't kill yourself on the spot, it's enough to give you a big hit. Deficit. Thinking of this, Su Tong couldn't help but secretly say that he was lucky. Looking at the entry of this time prop card, Su Tong's eyelids gradually turned into a gap. Touch of time. Travelers walking in time can only become passers-by. Only by touching time can we begin to become strong. Passive skill 1, slow travel. The effects triggered by time-based skills are doubled. Active skill 1, touch of time. It consumes 800 script points and activates the touch of time after activation, which can briefly control the flow of time around you. Duration, 30 seconds, 1 minute after doubling. Cooling time, 5 hours. Seeing this prop card, Su Tong couldn't help but take a deep breath and chose this prop card without any hesitation. Although this prop card is not a high-end prop card, it is definitely a priceless one. No wonder the other party dared to have the confidence to come to the hospital to find clues about him and participate in hunting him. It turned out that he had full confidence. With this prop card, the effect of your traveler's mark can be extended to 2 minutes. What is the concept of 2 minutes? In short, it's just one word, hanging. Su Tong happily put this prop card into his pocket, almost laughing to the back of his head. After reading the rest of the prop book in one go, Su Tong lost interest in the other prop cards and extracted all the script points from them. No more, no less, totaling about 68,500 script points. Finally, I can make up for my own financial gap. However, just when Su Tong was about to get up and leave, a man walked into the tavern. He glanced around and saw Su Tong sitting in the seat. His body froze, and then he strode over quickly. Under Su Tong's surprised gaze, the visitor sat down on the chair opposite, then stared at the cigar in Su Tong's hand and let out a hoarse laugh. "It's been so long, haven't you finished smoking this little stock?" Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 814. Su Tong looked at the man in front of him who was taking a swig of beer and was stunned for a few seconds. Then he put the cigar in his hand into his mouth and took a deep breath. Hiss poof. The green smoke hit the opponent's mask. Su Tong lowered his eyelids and just asked a question, "Do you want to join the team?" He said and sent an invitation to join the team. Hey. No entry. The invitation to join the team was rejected directly by the other party. Only one of us can be the king. Su Tong was happy when he heard this sentence, because he had also said this to Yang Zixuan. So he could be sure that the person in front of him was none other than Yang Zixuan. "I really didn't expect you to be alive." Su Tong waved his hand and signaled the bartender to add 2 more bottles of wine. Yang Zixuan let out an inexplicable laugh. "Ha ha, yes, it was fate. I was originally a prisoner, but in the end, it gave me a chance to live." In the last script world, the 3 core members of the Shadow Group came to Gao Zhou's certified script. Unexpectedly, the team was destroyed in the end. It's not that they don't want to come with a large army, but the coming itself has to pay a harsh price. If they want to come with the entire Shadow Group, the price is not something they can afford. At that time, Yang Zixuan was forced to join the core team of the Shadow Group and was taken as a hostage into another script world. It was this script world that gave Yang Zixuan the opportunity to counter-attack and make a comeback. Of course, this has a lot to do with the fact that Su Tong Tuan destroyed the 3 core backbones of the Shadow Tuan. Now he is the second in command of the Shadow Group and almost controls the resources of the entire Shadow Group. It's just that this process is too complicated, so there is no need to describe it here. After Yang Zixuan briefly explained the situation, he took out a box of cigars from the prop book. He took out a cigar from it, skillfully lit the cigar and took a deep puff. Then he pushed the whole box of cigars in front of Su Tong. "I'll replenish the cigars for you. Save some smoke, I don't have any more in stock." As he spoke, he drank down the beer in his hand, stood up and walked out. "Don't you ask your sister and nephew," Su Tong called to him. Yang Zixuan paused for a moment, but then said coldly, "If you don't ask, just treat me as dead." After speaking, Yang Zixuan turned around and left without looking back. Su Tong was not only surprised by this answer, but also felt a little relieved. Especially after what happened in the hospital, Su Tong was convinced of this. As a player, it will only bring more danger to your family. Cutting off contact is also a kind of protection in itself. As for whether the other party is Yang Zixuan, Su Tong thinks it is no longer important. Putting away the box of cigars on the table, Su Tong casually took out the manual given to him by his sister. Open the manual and carefully examine the privileges of each level of certified players. There are not many privileges at level LV3. In addition to things like lucky potions, there are also some rare materials that can be obtained in limited supply through the Script Killing Experience Center. It is worth mentioning here that items such as lucky potion can only be purchased by LV2 certified players. In other words, from the beginning, May has provided herself with considerable conveniences in some places. After reaching level 4, you can buy a piece of land at the exhibition and designate a servant as the shopkeeper to operate here for a long time. Of course, you can't escape paying a considerable management fee every month. Su Tong particularly noticed that the selected servant could even be selected from among the team members, but the other party could not be a certified player. This means that if a player wants to get rid of his identity as a player and no longer take risks in the scripted world, this is a good opportunity. As long as this team is not completely destroyed, even if the leader is killed, he can still live here safely. The disadvantages will stay here forever and cannot go anywhere. If you reach level LV5, your authority will be exaggerated. How exaggerated? The script killing experience center is all around you, with unlimited supply of special materials and a 20% discount. Not only can you open 3 subordinate groups, you can even get a huge database. All kinds of benefits are directly filled up. However, these are only standard features. The most exaggerated authority made Su Tong salivate after reading it. He could actually choose a script world as his base camp. In this script world, you can do whatever you want without worrying about ostracism. As long as you are strong enough, you can even transform this script world into your own exclusive kingdom. The resources and treasures of this world are all available to your team. In other words, you are the master of this script world. But, the conditions are quite harsh. To obtain this privilege, you need 20 diamond badges, 200 gold badges, 2,000 silver badges, and 1 million script points. And it should be noted that it doesn't matter which script world you want to choose. The script world you choose must be one you have experienced, and the exploration level must reach at least 75% of the script before it can be selected as your exclusive script world. The price is breathtakingly expensive and the benefits are exaggerated to the point of jaw-dropping. It really opened my eyes. As for the privileges of title players, there is only one sentence in the manual: everything you need. These 4 words are all-encompassing and evoke countless reveries. Unfortunately, he seemed to be still a little far away from this stage. Su Tong put away the book, stood up immediately and went straight to Gao Zhan. With a thought, the scene in front of them changed, the ground flipped, and in a blink of an eye, people arrived at the high-end exhibition area. Nice to meet you, master. The reception elf appeared next to Su Tong at the right time. I wonder if it was because after his rank was improved, the reception elf's attitude towards him was much more enthusiastic than before. I want a place of retreat. Su Tong stated his purpose simply and clearly, and upon hearing this, the spirit guide immediately gave Su Tong the 3 best answers. There are 3 places for you to consider. The first place is called Longkudong. The advantage is that it is cheap, the environment is beautiful, and no one will disturb you in retreat. The disadvantage is that the place is relatively remote, and there is no retreat auxiliary function. The second place is called Wanjiao Epiphyllum. It is a place specially used for ascetic retreat. The environment is average, but in retreat there, you will receive many auxiliary privileges. For example, your comprehension can be increased by up to 20%. The disadvantage is that the price is not cheap. The third place is called the Enlightenment Tea House. The advantage is that masters will lecture on sutras every day. Some people can gain enlightenment after just 1 cup of tea. The guide spirit described the characteristics of the 3 places one by one, and revealed all the advantages and disadvantages of each place. After Su Tong heard about it, he didn't hesitate and directly chose to look at the moon blossoms. This place is very close to me. Walking along the road, you will see an artificial lake not far away. As for moon watching epiphyllum, it is under the artificial lake. If it were not for the guide spirit to lead the way, I might not be able to find this place. After walking down, there is a special charging window, and there are already 6 or 7 people queuing in front of it, which makes people feel like entering a ticket office in a tourist attraction and queuing up to buy tickets. there is a sign standing next to it with the charging standards and corresponding privileges and blessings written on it. Needing to glance at it with his eyes, he immediately frowned. Without him, there is just one word: expensive. There are 4 levels of training rooms in total: Tian, De, Xian, and Huang. Yellow level is the cheapest, with 300 script points per hour. It has 2 privileges, including a 10% increase in understanding and a 15% energy recovery. 300 script points an hour? At this price, Su Tong wanted to call it robbery. Looking further down, the Suanzi training room costs 500 script points, the Daizi actually costs 800, and the Tianzi actually costs 1200 script points. No wonder even the elves are saying, this place is expensive, this is really bad. But it is worth the money. 3 people can enter the Tianzihao training room at a time, and it has 6 privileges. At this time, Su Tong looked up and saw a gold-lettered signboard Gun God branded on it. What does it mean? Su Tong pointed at the sign and asked curiously. This is the property of the gunslinger team, so it is natural to hang the signboard of the gunslinging team. The shopkeeper who issued the invoice explained to Su Tong with a smile on his face full of pride. Good guy, I just finished reading the manual, and I know that players can buy properties here. I didn't expect that the scale of their properties is so amazing. No wonder he is one of the 6 groups, money comes so easily. What's the price? When it was Su Tong's turn, the shopkeeper who issued the invoice asked him with a smile. Yellow letter, 10 hours. Su Tong handed over the script with a look of pain on his face. The shopkeeper always had a smile on his face, and he was very polite and gave Su Tong a jade vase. This is the enlightenment pill. It can increase comprehension by 3%. Guests who have spent more than 10 hours will have it. If it lasts more than 20 hours, we will give you another bottle of 10 yuan pill. Su Tong was startled and took the elixir with a smile. He thought to himself, they have really made their business bigger and stronger. They serve with a smile and even bring elixirs. Taking the sign of the training room, Su Tong walked inside, but when he entered, he was shocked by the sight in front of him. All you can see is the artificial lake in front of you. Through the glass tunnel, you can see countless dense duckweed suspended in the water. The duckweed was even shrouded in a layer of bubbles. Su Tong wanted to see what was inside the bubbles, but at first glance, he was blocked by a mysterious force. At the same time, a light warning sounded in my ears: please do not try to forcefully check other training rooms, otherwise you will be forcibly sent away and blacklisted by Mochizuki Epiphyllum. The sound did not come from the prop book, but came from the water. Looking down, I saw a huge plant swaying slightly under the deep pool. Could the sound come from this plant? With doubts, Su Tong walked along the corridor to the end. The place was wrapped in a huge bubble. Duckweed fell in from time to time. After someone stepped on the duckweed, they were sent to a specific area. If the time comes, he will naturally be sent back like this. Looking at the number of people coming and going during this moment, Su Tong was almost envious. It was all money. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 815. With a sigh in his heart, Su Tong stepped on a piece of duckweed according to the passage corresponding to the sign. The duckweed swayed slightly and pushed Su Tong away to a water area a little further away. Ding! You have received privileged blessings. Your purity of mind, clarity, and understanding will be temporarily improved. Your understanding will be increased by 10%, and your energy will be restored by 15%. Following the prompt, Su Tong suddenly felt a sense of clarity of mind. It seems expensive, but it's not entirely unreasonable. Su Tong then took out the gifted bottle of enlightenment pill. After opening the bottle, a pill as big as a soybean rolled out. This is also called a pill. Su Tong pinched this small soybean and suddenly felt disappointed. Sure enough, you can't expect too much from something given away for free. Wu Xinhua, Yufeng Jiang, Pure Aria Lobata, Sangzhenko. The voice of the elixir sounded in Su Tong's head, and he couldn't help but recite the elixir's refining formula, and even scorned this so-called elixir. In terms of alchemy, this thing is not worthy of being called an elixir. Strictly speaking, it is the dregs of the elixir that failed to make the elixir, which was filtered and rekneaded. After listening to what Danjing said, Su Tong understood that it was no wonder that the gift was so generous, and co-authoring it was waste. Thinking of this, Su Tong suddenly raised his brows, took out the fantasy Rubik's Cube, and threw the elixir into the fantasy Rubik's Cube to give it a try. The result was that the enhancement cost of this thing was so low that Su Tong's jaw dropped. Level 1 enhancement actually only costs 2 script points. This was the first time Su Tong had encountered such a cheap enhancement. Strengthen. Seeing this, Su Tong immediately started to strengthen, with 2 script points for level 1, 4 points for level 2, and 8 points for level 3. Ding! The enlightenment pill has been successfully upgraded to level 6, resulting in a qualitative transformation. Soon a golden pill appeared in Su Tong's hand. Compared with the small soybean-like appearance before, the enlightenment pill at this moment was more like a golden bean. Su Tong threw it into the prop book and took a look at it, and he was so happy that he opened his mouth from ear to ear. Enlightenment pill at 6. After eating it, you can temporarily increase your understanding by 28% and gain the privileged stable Dao heart. The Taoist heart is stable and has great resistance to the harassment of inner demons. Duration, 8 hours. How could Su Tong not be happy when he saw the entry for the enlightenment pill? The total cost of strengthening to level 6 is only 126 script points. The effect is already comparable to that of the Tianzihao training room. Since this kind of enlightenment pill that was given away for free was made from pill slag and given away in large quantities as gifts, the inventory will definitely be large. If you buy it in large quantities, process it and then sell it in bulk. Su Tong could already see in his eyes that a large amount of windfall was about to arrive in his hands. However, this idea was quickly suppressed by Su Tong temporarily. The effect of the fantasy Rubik's Cube was extremely unbelievable. It's almost as perverted as a cheating device. The reason why I failed to achieve results was entirely because I was poor. But if this thing falls into the hands of a top team like the Gunslingers, with the help of a huge capital chain, they can completely improve their strength by more than one level. Just relying on this will push yourself into the abyss of eternal destruction. Therefore, I must be extra careful in this matter. Even if the disguise of the exhibition can protect me, I cannot allow myself to have any luck. After all, the Gun God group is not only the strongest among the 6 groups, but also a powerful one with the title of one of the 2 gods. Whether the privileges possessed by a powerful person include the ability to see everyone's identity is unknown to him. Therefore, Su Tong did not dare to make a decision easily before confirming this matter with Aimee. After thinking for a moment, Su Tong sent a message to Gao Zhou through the team channel, asking him to go into the script studio and ask Aimee. Then he swallowed the enlightenment pill in his hand and began to meditate seriously. In the Dao-slaying realm, he is known as the land god. Although he seems helpless in the face of the terrifying strength of the old magic stick, his reputation is by no means in vain. Otherwise, how could Taoist Mai Hua escape unscathed when he made a big fuss in the underworld? I saw the sun furnace rising from behind Su Tong, and the blood on Su Tong's body began to burn along with the furnace. The great master can change the situation between reality and reality. A real person who has entered the Tao can create things out of thin air, and the Tao and fruits will be natural. Become the Dao, heaven and man, the great road is finally completed, heaven and man are one. Kill the Taoist immortal, cut off your obsessions, and become an immortal instantly. Su Tong's eyes were slightly lowered, and the aura around him was getting stronger and stronger. Although he used the Dao casting pill to forcefully jump up and step into the Jean Dao, he did not truly understand the changes and mysteries between becoming a Dao and Jean Dao. But those who stand on the peak and look down will see that they have to take fewer detours than those who are climbing below. And the magical effect of the Ruyi furnace behind him gave him a new understanding and knowledge of Jean Dao. This furnace was developed by Su Tong using the innate Dao foundation and Yansha Dao fruit to finally evolve the Tai's Hang oven. From acquired nature to innate nature, it is the foundation of one's own life. When one is prosperous, one will be prosperous and one will be damaged. Its magical power is unparalleled. Not only can it refine the veins of the heavens into magic, but it can also seize the power of heaven and earth and feed it back to one's own body. The stronger the refining power, the more powerful his physical body becomes. In fact, it is not difficult to see from this point that Yan Shu and the three teachings have something in common, but they go to an extreme degree. For example, in Taoism, the ultimate goal is to become an immortal. The physical body is more like a battery pack. At the time of emergence, the essence of the physical body merges with the soul, bursting out unprecedented spiritual power, directly sublimating itself. Of course, as to whether this battery pack will be scrapped after use, that is not within the scope of these big guys' consideration. As far as Buddhism is concerned, the physical body has been reduced to a stinky skin, but it has also been said that the world is like a sea of suffering, and the physical body is used as a boat. But in the final analysis, once you cross the sea of suffering, your physical body will also be abandoned. This is something that both Buddhism and Taoism have in common. This is not the case with Yan Shu. All the methods he performs are known for his domineering nature. What is domineering is not only the use of techniques, but also the unscrupulousness of the body. The essence of Yanshu lies in two words: plunder. Take away the benefits of heaven and earth, and seize the luck of all living beings. If we understand it in modern terms, it is mine, mine, everything is mine. For this reason, Su Tong felt that it was not unreasonable for Yanshu Master to be replaced by the three religions. Everything is yours, why don't you hold on to it? Oh, now I am a Yanshu Master, haha, it smells so good. Then Su Tong entered the state of internal vision again. Bang bang bang. A steady heartbeat sounded, and the source of the sound came from his own heart. Every time this emerald-like heart beats, traces of strange fluorescence emerge from the 7 holes like human breath, making the entire sacred stone seem like a living object. The heart was still beating, showing strong vitality. No matter who it is, they can feel that the body of this flesh and blood fetus contains unparalleled blood. This blood energy is completely different from the demonic energy swallowed up by Lilith's heart. This is the purest life force, as hot as a red-hot flame. The powerful blood energy is even changing her body all the time. The dark power in his body is being squeezed out bit by these strong, fire-like blood. This is not a bad thing. It shows that the power of darkness is far less domineering than the flesh and blood of his body at the moment. Then a thought came to Su Tong: it's time to clean up. His consciousness sank into the Ruyi furnace of the great sun, and there was only one thing in the furnace. The golden light of this object was like a huge golden elixir. This is the piece of innate talisman pried from the cliff of enlightenment in heaven. I wanted to refine this thing before, but the supreme oven was not powerful. Now I slashed in one leap, just in need of a large number of talismans to fill the void in my strength. This golden egg seemed to be aware of the crisis. When Su Tong's consciousness sank into the Ruyi furnace, it immediately began to tremble. In an instant, with the trembling, golden light burst out, and all kinds of weird spells hit the surroundings like a heavy rain. Well done. Seeing this, Su Tong was not angry but happy, and the Ruyi furnace burned with blazing flames along with Su Tong's will. This flame is not an ordinary fire, but the true fire of Samadhi transformed by Su Tong's physical essence and spirit. The Ruyi furnace of the great sun can refine all things and nourish the body, but it also requires the body's huge blood energy to destroy the Ruyi furnace. This is why Su Tong said that the two complement each other, and both prosper and suffer. Reason. After all, the ultimate domination also represents the ultimate sacrifice. Refining. Waves of breaking power were immediately conveyed from the furnace body. This power was thick, heavy, and strong masculine fire, instantly crushing all the secret techniques inspired by the innate treasure talisman. These crushed spells instantly revealed their original form in the real fire, but many of them were incomplete, and almost none of them was complete. Seeing this, Su Tong waved his hand, and the blood from his body was injected into the oven of the sun. For a moment, Su Tong's body was aging rapidly, as if he had declined by 10 years in the blink of an eye. With the blessing of such a large amount of blood energy, the Ruyi furnace made a clanging sound, and the furnace body was like the sun, illuminating the entire water surface instantly. Huh? Why is it so hot? Other players in the practice room also suddenly felt the temperature change around them. This place is underwater, so it should be cool and refreshing, but at this moment, the temperature is soaring, which makes people feel depressed. Many people ignored the ban and looked into the distance. At this glance, they saw that the water around Su Tong's duckweed seemed to be boiling, with huge bubbles gurgling. What is this person doing in there? Everyone was also shocked by this scene, and they all began to guess who the characters in this piece of duckweed were. At this time, the person in charge of Mochizuki Epiphyllum also noticed something was wrong. I saw the duckweed gradually swaying, and under the deep pool, a huge group of plants slowly squirmed, gradually pulling Su Tong's duckweed into the deep water, avoiding other players' training rooms. But the effect of this is obviously not obvious, and the water temperature is getting higher and higher. In desperation, duckweeds came in one after another from the surroundings, forming a lotus-like shape, and forcibly wrapped the duckweed where Su Tong was. Seeing this scene, the shopkeeper of Wanjiao Epiphyllum became darkened. Quick, go and ask the boss to come quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 816. Rumble. Just listen to the sound of wind, fire, thunder, and lightning in the Ruyi furnace of the Great Sunday. Various strange spells are burned and refined by the real fire, forming a golden palm. Turn your hand to make clouds and turn your hand to make rain. When you raise your hand, there is thunder and lightning. The slap hit the innate talisman hard, and with one slap, it shattered and a large hole came out. Countless golden fragments splashed in the furnace like a goddess scattering flowers, and then rolled out, turning into countless golden talismans. Various spells were instantly refined by the alchemy furnace, and then merged into a ball and turned into a brand new innate talisman. Hey, didn't you chew this off? Su Tong thought, and the content of the treasure technique immediately appeared in his mind. Innate talisman, Shalong talisman. As Su Tong's thoughts moved, he saw a golden light flying out like a long dragon, like Neza's Hun Tianling, twisting according to his thoughts. Nice one. Su Tong directly took the talisman out of the Great Sun Ruyi furnace and immediately continued to smash it down. Bang bang bang. The big golden hand transformed into thousands of talismans slammed down hard, and every slap made the surrounding void tremble. Bits of golden fragments fell like raindrops, and were then refined again. This time, two kinds of talismans appeared. One was the innate talisman, the stone summoning technique. The other one is called the blood curse. The former is more interesting. It is also called the mountain calling mantra. You can call the spirits of the mountains. Once the mountain is famous, you can call out the spirits of the mountains to send you orders. The latter is more like an evil magic method, which uses the blood of many living beings as sacrifices to activate blood curses, specifically to taint people's souls, which is extremely harmful. After knocking down these two talismans, Su Tong started to beat the drum and rest. It wasn't that he didn't want to continue, but that his own vitality was starting to run low. Immediately, he saw his mind move. Two talismans were taken out of the Ruyi furnace and were taken into Yuanshen by Su Tong. As for the other talismans in the furnace, they were all turned into billowing essences under the true fire of Samadhi, and fed back into his own soul. Within the body, a large amount of life essence was re-injected into Su Tong's flesh and blood, and Su Tong's originally thin body gradually began to glow with vitality. After a while, when Su Tong opened his eyes, his physical body had returned to its peak state. The Great Sun Ruyi furnace still retains a large amount of life essence, which can be used by him at any time. It can be used to make elixirs, heal injuries, and even improve physical fitness. As expected, he was able to seize the luck of heaven and earth and use it for himself. He was indeed domineering. Su Tong took a deep breath and sighed at the tyranny of the Xianchu. Only then did he notice that something had happened to the duckweed he was on. The original blisters disappeared and were instead wrapped up by layers of duckweed. This made Su Tong startled, but soon he saw the duckweed in front of him gradually opening its mouth. Only then did Su Tong realize that his position had also changed, and there were two duckweeds sticking closely to him. There were many figures standing on top of the two duckweeds, staring at him eagerly. Among them were the staff of Moon Night Flower and many players who came over to watch the excitement. Seeing this, Su Tong immediately became alert. Although fighting was prohibited in the exhibition area, it was his property after all, and there was no guarantee that nothing would happen. "What do you mean by this?" Su Tong raised his head and asked. An undisguised middle-aged man heard the words and stepped forward, offering his hand to Su Tong. "I don't misunderstand me, it's just that your retreat has caused so much noise that we have to take precautions." After saying this, he saw the duckweed under Su Tong's feet rising slowly, and the three pieces of duckweed gradually moved closer. However, Su Tong stood calmly at the back, ready to take action at any time. Naturally, Su Tong's small movements cannot be hidden from everyone's eyes, but this is also a normal phenomenon. "I am Epiphyllum Motif, and my surname is Zhang. You can just call me Old Man Zhang. Don't worry, sir, the rules of the exhibition are our rules. No one can tamper with me here." The middle-aged man called himself an old man, but the word old was not related to him. The other party said it very politely, and Su Tong just nodded indifferently. Old Man Zhang didn't take this to heart and took out a sign and handed it to Su Tong. "Your strength is amazing. This yellow letter training room may not be enough to satisfy your cultivation. This sign is the exclusive waist badge of the Tianzihao training room. With this card, you can use the Tianzihao training room without any charge in the future." This move made many players watching the excitement around have their eyes red. The Tianzihao training room costs 1,200 script points per hour. With this waist card, you can use it for free and for a limited time. After all, this is not a small amount of money. However, what surprised everyone was that Su Tong actually pushed back his waist card. "No reward for no merit, thank you Mr. Zhang for your kindness. Isn't this man a fool? You don't even want the money given to him for free." Some players whispered, feeling that Su Tong was being overly cautious. Moonlight Epiphyllum was the property of the gun gods, and they had a big business, so how could they plot against a small character like him? Seeing Su Tong's refusal, Old Man Zhang did not force himself, but said to Su Tong, "That's all right, but you are so powerful that the yellow-branded training room can't bear it. Next time, please at least use a land-named training room, otherwise I might disturb you. It will have a bad impact on other customers." Before Su Tong could answer, he heard Gao Zhou's message to him in the team channel. "Tou, Sister Tou said that even the privileges of title players cannot shake the basic rules. The so-called basic rules are equivalent to the constitution of a country. All rules are derived from this and can be innovated, but they must never be surpassed. Therefore, even if the gunslinger, one of the two gods, comes in person, he will not be able to find Su Tong's true identity in the exhibition. Otherwise, once this hole is torn open, the security of the exhibition will collapse, and a crisis of trust will occur, and the prosperity here will be gone. After learning about this from Gaozhou, Su Tong looked at the old man Zhang in front of him. I will pay attention to this matter, but there is one more thing that I don't know if we can discuss. Haha, everything is easy to discuss. Old man Zhang squinted his eyes and said with a smile. I want to buy some enlightenment pills, yes, the kind that are given as gifts. Hearing this, not only old man Zhang, but the others were also a little stunned. You must know that the waist card that old man Zhang gave just now is a priceless treasure. Not only did the other party not want it, but he even offered to buy rubbish like the enlightenment pill. If Su Tong's news hadn't been so shocking, they would have doubted whether the news from this guy was true. Humph, you are the one who has never eaten good pork. Some players shook their heads when they heard this, thinking that this is a fool. You don't want the waist card, what do you want this kind of garbage? Ignorant bumpkin. Even those who looked at the night blooming serious couldn't help but let out a burst of ridicule. However, old man Zhang glared at him fiercely. He held his short beard and remained silent for a moment. This is not difficult. I just take the liberty to ask, what do you want this thing for? Get rich. Su Tong's answer was simple, direct, and very frank. Just this answer made old man Zhang, who was very deep in the city, stunned for several seconds, and then burst into hoarse laughter. The other players around him and those watching Moon Night Flower couldn't help laughing. Ha 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 ha. Making a fortune with the enlightenment pill? You're afraid you don't know how cheap this thing is. Someone couldn't help but point out part of the truth. The enlightenment pill, as the elixir said, is completely the product of secondary processing of the dregs of failed elixir refining. I originally planned to sell it at a certain point, but no one wanted this thing at all. Even if it was sold by the pound, no one wanted it. After all, the 3% effect is too low, and it is ineffective if used multiple times in a row. Whoever needs this thing on weekdays only remembers it when they are in retreat, so they can't give it away, let alone sell it. I think you are crazy about money. I will give you as much as you want. I just want to see how you get rich. I might as well sponsor some. After all, it's fun to support other people's dreams. Seeing that everyone's teasing was getting more and more exaggerated, old man Zhang finally realized that this was inappropriate, so he coughed twice, covered up the smile on his face, and then asked Su Tong seriously. To be honest with you, this kind of thing is not valuable. If you need it, we can give you 2 boxes as a gift. I just take the liberty to ask, how do you want to make a fortune? Su Tong smiled and replied truthfully, sell it. As soon as these words came out, everyone could no longer hold back and burst into laughter again. This time, old man Zhang also shook his head and looked dumbfounded. He sent someone to bring up 2 large boxes of enlightenment pills. Su Tong was not polite, put away the 2 big boxes, handed over to the old man Zhang in front of him, and said goodbye. They have said what they need to say, and whether they believe it or not is naturally their own business. In this way, when they sell the enhanced version of the enlightenment pill, they will have no reason to embarrass themselves. This time, old man Zhang no longer wanted to stay and sent Su Tong away from Wanjiao Epiphyllum. Only after Su Tong left did old man Zhang sigh, I wanted to recruit him for the Lord, but I didn't expect this person to leave decisively. Mr. Zhang, what does such a fool want him to do? When the shopkeeper heard this, he immediately said unconvincedly. His words were full of arrogance, but he did have the qualifications. Their spear god regiment is the leader of the 6 regiments, and their leader, the spear god, is one of the 2 gods and is known as the strong one. There are 3 areas of the team's business that can be said to be making money every day. It also has 4 affiliated teams, any one of which is one of the best among the many player teams. There are countless people who want to join the gun gods. How can such an idiot deserve to join the gun gods? Shut up. Mr. John glared at him fiercely and said coldly, no one who can reach this point is a fool. Fairy Epiphyllum just now sent me a message. This person has the realm of Deo Deo, which is enough to be tied with Sandu. Hearing this, the shopkeeper who was teasing Su Tong just now opened his mouth in surprise. He knew that Su Tong's strength might be good, but he didn't expect that the opponent was actually in the Deo Slayer realm. There were not many players who had reached this level. Old man Zhang frowned. He didn't know why he always felt uncomfortable in his heart, so he said to the shopkeeper, please pay attention to the recent changes in the market. If anyone sells the enlightenment pill, keep an eye on me. I would like to know, do you know how this person wants to make a fortune? Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 817. Gilug. In the courtyard of the Angelica Soup House, steaming heat surges. In a huge soup pool, 3 people were enjoying themselves with their eyes narrowed. Comfortable. When Gao Zhou soaked in it, he felt that the pores all over his body were open and all the bones in his body felt warm. I complained before that asking for 1000 script points for this is too extravagant, but now I feel it is worth every penny. Of course, the 1000 script points are not just due to bathing in the hot spring, but because this hot spring not only has the effect of enhancing physical fitness, but also greatly increases the spirit. Otherwise, why would it be so expensive? A hot spring is only open for 1 hour, and the water will be cut off when the time is up. If you want to add more water, you will be charged extra. Compared with the enjoyment of Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai, Su Tong felt average. His physique was so strong that the amplifying effect of Tang Quan was almost negligible to him. Both Gao Zhou and Gao Zhou increased their physique by 5%, but he only increased by 1%. But looking at the two of them looking comfortable, Su Tong didn't care about the difference. Boss, can you really make a fortune by calling us here? Gu Zibai asked curiously. It turned out that after Su Tong left Mochizuki Epiphyllum, he still wandered around the exhibition just in case. Then he called Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai over. Gu Zibai traded 28,000 script points to Su Tong, which was the proceeds from selling half of the prop cards. It will take some time to digest the remaining half of the prop cards. Su Tong calmly waved his hand and said that he was not in a hurry about selling prop cards because he had thought of a good idea to make a fortune. Hearing Gu Zibai's question, Su Tong smiled and nodded, of course, otherwise, why would I call you here? As he spoke, Su Tong took out a bottle of elixir and handed it to the two of them. Inside this elixir is the enlightenment elixir that he processed while the two of them were still here. The quantity is not much, only 30 pieces. But each one was upgraded to add 6 quality by Su Tong. Seeing the 28% comprehension, Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai's eyes suddenly lit up. Gu Zibai even said in surprise, this is good stuff. Certainly. Su Tong nodded. The 1200 point script in the Tianzihao training room is divided into 1 hour, and can only increase by 20% at most. It's still hard to find a room. And his enlightenment pill has surpassed the effect of Tianzihao's training room, so it is certainly a good thing. And this food can not only be eaten by yourself, but also by the princess, the old Taoist, the master, etc. In other words, even if you get this thing in the script world, it is still a popular hard currency. So Su Tong has no worries about not being able to sell this thing, and the price is so cheap, it only costs 800 script points apiece. Throwing aside the cost, they can earn 672 script points from one bullet, which can be considered a huge profit. This price will definitely not sell in ordinary exhibition areas, but in high-end exhibition areas, this price is not expensive at all. Su Tong then briefly explained his plan. Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai looked at each other and immediately understood. Soon, someone set up a stall in front of Moonlight Epiphyllum. Pedestrians passing by basically chose to ignore this kind of street stall, but soon someone noticed that there was a sign hanging in front of the street stall. There is a line of big characters written in red cinnabar on it: Super Enlightenment Pill, open your Tianling cap and let you take the Tianzihao cultivation room with you. Bright red characters and exaggerated slogans. It immediately attracted everyone's attention. Just when someone comes up and takes a look, isn't this a free enlightenment pill? Are you crazy about money? 800 scripts for one pill. Hearing this man's curse, everyone started to curse. People who come to Moonlight Epiphyllum come here for the privileges and blessings of the retreat room, knowing that these things are all given away for free. But I never expected that someone would actually sell this thing for money. You're crazy, even dogs won't eat this. Some people started to joke, but the map cannon was fired a bit too loudly, which inevitably caused dissatisfaction among the people around. You, uncle, can you speak? 3% is always better than nothing, why are you pretending to be so garlicky? Seeing that his slip of the tongue had caused him to curse, the other party quickly changed his tone and said, Ahem, I heard that this thing is the product of secondary processing of red slag. It is purely waste recycling. Selling this thing for money is too much, isn't it? If you give me 1 cent for the 800 scripts, this person is mentally ill. The crowd continued to curse, but Gao Zhou sat firmly on the Diao Tai and remained indifferent no matter how much he was cursed. Until someone was curious and took a look at the effects of the elixir displayed on the stall, then suddenly stared and shut up instantly. Brother, give me 10. After someone clearly saw the entry for this elixir, they wanted to step forward and wrap it up before anyone could react. But Gao Zhou remembered Su Tong's instructions and curled his lips. Sorry, one person is limited to 2. Then 2. Unexpectedly, Gao Zhou even restricted the purchase. The other party didn't waste any words and directly traded for 1,600 script points to take away the 2 pills. But as the saying goes, there are policies and countermeasures. Who is a fool who can get to this point? I saw the other party took the elixir, immediately circled the crowd, and continued to run back to buy it. Gradually, the curses became quieter and quieter, but more and more people bought them. The 30 pills in Gao Zhou's hand were all wiped out almost instantly. This is a profit of 24,000 script points. After deducting the cost of 3,780 script points, they earned 20,000 blood. Such huge profits instantly gave Gao Zhou a dizzy feeling like a pig's brain was overloaded. This is such a huge profit. Boss, hurry up and restock. At the same time, Gu Zibai's urging voice also came from the team channel. Gu Zibai did not sell at the gate of Wanjiao Epiphyllum. Instead, he followed Su Tong's instructions and sold it outside the gate of Wuidao Tea House. Most of the people who came here were stuck in a bottleneck and planned to listen to the teacher's lectures to see if they could. You can't let yourself have an epiphany. This kind of elixir that directly improves your understanding by 28% was snapped up by people here almost instantly. In the team warehouse, each of you will get half. In addition, from now on, we will increase the price, and you will get 1 for every 1,000 scripts. Su Tong's reply was simple. 1,000. Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai didn't expect that the price would increase as soon as the business started to pick up. They felt a little inappropriate for a while, mainly because they made too much. If they sold the first 30 pills, they would earn a full 20,000 yuan, which made them feel a little guilty. However, now that Su Tong has spoken, they will not be vague and directly start to increase prices on the spot. When the people behind realized that the price had risen so much at once, their expressions suddenly changed. You're raising the price from the ground up. Such an enlightenment pill is given away for free, And you want 1000 script points? Are you crazy? Everyone was filled with indignation. If it weren't for the protection rules of the exhibition, they might have wanted to rush in and destroy the mess at this time. I don't want it anymore, it's too expensive, someone cursed and was about to leave. When Gao Zhou saw this, he felt a little guilty, thinking that the price was too high. But soon Gao Zhou discovered that people were swearing a lot, but he was selling much faster than before. Some even started calling members of their team to line up to buy. At this moment, Gao Zhou felt relaxed and looked steadily at the script score in his hand, which was increasing rapidly. The same situation happened to Gu Zibai. The value of the enlightenment pill far exceeded their expectations. Even if it is not needed now, it does not mean that it will not be needed in the future. When the people in the tea house got the news, they stopped even listening to the teacher's sermons and rushed out to buy medicine. 28% comprehension, this is no joke, maybe I am just missing the mark? The two of them were so happy, but they didn't know that at this moment, Su Tong was almost busy. Even though they had expected it, they didn't expect that the scene would be so heated. I saw Su Tong sitting in Tankin's hut at this moment, with 2 large boxes of enlightenment pills on his side and a fantasy Rubik's Cube on his side. The little fat man, the second soul, has also been summoned by Su Tong, and he is guarding the dream Rubik's Cube to help. Not only the little fat man, but also Dia, Fasai and Jixiang were summoned by Su Tong. Because there is no bottle, a piece of yellow paper is simply used as the packaging. Dia is responsible for dividing the medicine, and Jixiang is responsible for packaging the medicine. It looks the same as the powdered medicine in the community clinic. Finally, the packaged medicine was dipped in the cinnabar ink pad on the side with the palm of Fa Cai's hand, and then he pressed it lightly with his palm and stamped it with the mark of a little fat man. A small product from an unlicensed workshop was freshly baked. Su Tong lay on the chair and threw the drugs into the team warehouse. At the same time, looking at the almost crazy flow of water in the team warehouse, Su Tong was already laughing to the back of his head. What? 1 piece for 1000 scripts. At this moment, old man Zhang, who was looking at the moonlight, almost dropped his jaw in shock. When Su Tong took away 2 large boxes of enlightenment pills, Mr. Zhang thought of countless ways to make money with these things. After thinking about it for a long time, I still couldn't figure it out. As a result, before he could take a sip of tea, he heard a report from his subordinates, saying that someone had started selling enlightenment pills at a stall at the door, and the price was 1000 pills. At first, old man Zhang thought he had heard wrongly, but after his subordinates confirmed it again and again, old man Zhang's expression suddenly became complicated. Especially when they learned that business was booming and their people were still queuing up, Mr. Zhang's head was buzzing. Even if I break my head, I still can't figure out why someone would be willing to pay 1000 script points for something like the enlightenment pill. Don't these people have any brains? While old man Zhang was confused, a subordinate finally hurried over and bought an enlightenment pill. Looking at the elixir wrapped in apricot yellow paper, old man Zhang felt numb, and his subordinates had to tell old man Zhang that he spent a full 1200 script points on this elixir. It's not that the price has increased, but that there are so many people queuing up that it has even spawned scalpers. When he heard the news, old man Zhang almost bit his tongue. His business had never been so booming. After realizing something was wrong, he quickly opened the package carefully and saw a golden bean the same size as the enlightenment pill rolling down onto his hand. Although it is also the enlightenment pill, the quality of golden tuzi is obviously completely different from the enlightenment pill they sent. He immediately took a closer look, and after seeing the entry for this elixir clearly, old man Zhang was completely stunned. He sat on the chair blankly for a moment, and then exclaimed, "It's broken, we have become someone else's signature." "Boss, how do you say this?" Seeing the change in old man Zhang's expression, the shopkeeper hurriedly brought the tea to him and asked softly. In his opinion, there is no conflict between the other parties selling medicine and them. Old Man Zhang had no intention of drinking tea. Instead, he threw the tea away and stood up from his chair. His face suddenly turned extremely ugly. Go and buy it quickly. Mobilize everyone to buy it. Buy as much as they have. We can't let them sell it again. After that, he said to the shopkeeper, from today on, the enlightenment pills will no longer be given away. Even if the enlightenment pills in the warehouse are broken or smelly, no more enlightenment pills are allowed to leak out. The shopkeeper was startled now. Boss, there are several thousand kilograms of goods there. Idiot. Seeing that the shopkeeper hadn't realized the seriousness of this matter, Old Man Zhang couldn't help but pointed at his nose and cursed, you deserve to be the shopkeeper for the rest of your life. After speaking, he explained in a cold voice, one of these pills has more enlightenment privileges than those granted by Tianzihao's training room, and it lasts for 8 hours. Calculate the price of Tianzihao, and the price of this pill. Don't for 1000 script points, even if he doubles the price, it will still be cheaper than ours. From now on, if everyone has one, how can we do business? After hearing this, the shopkeeper suddenly realized. The house price in Tianzihao is 1200 an hour, which means that if a pill can solve the problem, who would spend money to practice at home? There are so many clean places, and there is nowhere to go. They are lying on our bodies to suck blood. The shopkeeper immediately gritted his teeth. This man is really bold. We must find him and never let him live happily. Should we launch a reward order and dig out this man's background at all costs? Old Man Zhang curled his lips when he heard this, with sarcasm on his face, and said meaningfully, they made it clear in front of us and all the players before that we were the ones who gave the pills to them with a smile, and now they are making money. Do you openly deal with others? We can afford to lose face like this, but the leader can't afford to lose face. Not only did Mr. Zhang not blame Su Tong, but he admired Su Tong's methods. This was an accurate calculation, and the spear gods did not dare to deal with him in a big way because of this matter. After all, they couldn't let their leader make a narrow-minded comment in front of outsiders just for such a script score. After finishing speaking, the old man didn't want to talk anymore, and waved his hand, indicating that the shopkeeper should go ahead and do the work first. Seeing this, the shopkeeper was so angry that he could only shake his head and walk out. When he reached the door, Brother Yang. Old Man Zhang suddenly called out to the shopkeeper. When the shopkeeper turned around, he saw Old Man Zhang picking up another teacup and taking a sip. The regiment leader said not long ago that he wanted to open up another medicinal garden. He needs a person to take care of it. You can go over there for a while. When the shopkeeper heard this, his body trembled suddenly, and his face suddenly turned gray. After standing at the door and wandering for a few times, he lowered his head and responded in a mosquito-like voice, yes. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 818. Get rich, get rich. After a day of life-threatening assembly lines ended in a hurry, Su Tong was already lying on the bed and didn't want to talk. Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai on the side were full of energy. How could they not be energetic? For the first time, they experienced the joy of doing business. The cost of these 126 script points would be nearly 8 times the profit if resold. Today they sold a total of 800 copies of the elixir, excluding the cost of 100,000 script points, and made a profit of nearly 790,000 script points. The money came so quickly, so comfortable, and I was so happy. In comparison, Gu Zibai was selling prop cards in a low-level exhibition area, and he only got 20,000 script points after selling them in one day. The gap was so huge that it was really unacceptable. And these are just the beginning. Looking at the boxes, only a small part of the elixirs have been consumed. These 2 large boxes are enough for them to eat for a long time. Today it's 800,000, and tomorrow we'll sell it for 1 million, and then 1 million a day, and we're not far away from sharing the tens of millions of scripts. Gao Zhou's eyes flashed green, and he wished he could pull Su Tong up to work right now. It's never been this exciting to run a money printing machine. However, Su Tong had to pour cold water on Gao Zhou. Don't be stupid, this thing won't sell for long. There are only so many players in the high-end exhibition area, and a large part of what was sold today was just that most people bought more to stock up. Su Tong estimates that the sales will be almost complete in the next 2 days. It will be difficult to achieve such sales again. Besides, they are not businessmen after all, but players. What is a player? A player is someone who has fun. Although you can make money by working as a businessman here, it is a waste of time. Unless they can buy a property here, they can consider it and sell it slowly, and the water will flow slowly. Properties that can be purchased require player certification at level 4. I can't wait until that time. Boss, what do you mean, let's just forget it? Gao Zhou actually wanted to say, I have time, I can sell it, after all, the money comes too easily. Never mind. Su Tong sat up, took out a cigar, put it to his mouth, and took a deep drag, with a somewhat domineering look on his face. Don't worry, someone will pay for us soon. It is said that a tiger's butt cannot be touched. Today, Su Tong not only wants to touch the Gunsling group's butt, but also wants him to give him a large amount of compensation. No, after a short rest, Su Tong held a sign and came to the gate of Wanjiao Epiphyllum in person. It's still the same advertisement, it's still the same pill, but this time the price has returned to the original 800 script points. Moreover, they also specially put a sentence on the advertisement, never increase the price. As soon as Su Tong appeared this time, he was immediately surrounded by people. These people formed a circle and had no intention of buying or letting Su Tong leave. They also blocked other people from approaching the stall. You don't need to think about it to know that this must be the person who looks at the moon and the night flower. Su Tong was not in a hurry. As soon as he lay down on the ground, he saw 2 more people not far away holding signs, one on the left and one on the right, starting to sell medicine. I have a team of 18 people, and they can be sold everywhere in the entire exhibition area. It pisses me off, so I will start giving them away for free tomorrow. Oh, buy 1 and get 3 free. Anyway, this thing was given to me by someone else, so it costs nothing. Su Tong picked his ears with his little finger and said nonchalantly. Soon his original words reached old man Zhang's ears verbatim. Arrogant. The rich eaters have eaten on my head. Old man Zhang has been in business for so many years, and then he met the gun gods, and was personally named by the leader as the chief logistics manager of the gun gods. He managed the Moon Night Flower, Sangxian Pharmacy, and a refining factory almost all by himself. Originally, I was still holding on to luck, hoping that the other party would know how to advance and retreat, but never expected that the other party not only didn't know how to advance or retreat, but was actually so arrogant. But soon, old man Zhang could no longer be angry. A subordinate sent a package of elixirs. He said, "This is a reward to thank Mr. Zhang." Old man Zhang picked it up and took a look, only to see a little fat man seal stamped on it. However, compared with before, this little fat man had obviously gained a lot of weight. When old man Zhang saw the wrapping paper opened, his pupils suddenly tightened, and he saw a round pill like a pearl inside. When he took out this thing and took a look, old man Zhang was instantly stunned. Enlightenment pill at 9. After eating it, you can temporarily increase your understanding by 50% and gain privileges stable Taoist heart access to thoughts enlightenment. A stable Taoist heart, extremely resistant to the harassment of inner demons. Mind access, during practice, you may gain 3 times skill experience. Enlightenment, 3% probability to mutate skills. Duration, 8 hours. Seeing the entry for the enlightenment pill, the old man Zhang was really dumbfounded. It's no exaggeration to say that my heart was turned upside down. The group leader established Sangxian Pharmacy not only for profit, but also to obtain a steady stream of high-grade elixirs. But since the establishment of Sangxian Pharmacy, it has been more than profitable, but when it comes to high-end elixirs, there are almost very few. However, the other party has a way of turning decay into magic. If a pharmacy is opened in the future, I am afraid that no one in this industry can compete with him. At this moment, old man Zhang suddenly noticed a line of small blue words printed on the yellow paper packaging the elixir. When I picked it up and took a look, I saw cost 1,890 printed on it. Seeing these small words, old man Zhang dropped all the pills in his hand to the ground. If such an elixir were to be sold, based on old man Zhang's experience, it would be conservatively estimated that it would cost at least 50,000 script points to obtain, and it was still priceless and very precious. If the other party brings out this unique skill, it means that they can not only cover the low-end market, but also enter the high-end market, and if they do, they will make huge profits. Even scarier, if the cost above is true. The cost of the elixir enhanced to add 9 is less than 2,000. The cost of the elixirs sold on the market is probably even lower. Let alone 800, 500 is a huge profit for him. At this time, the old man Zhang's spirit was completely shattered, and he smiled bitterly in his heart. I didn't expect that Zongheng shopping mall, would fall on this inconspicuous pill slag. Sitting on the chair, he was stunned for a while, then he opened his mouth and said feebly, "Invite him in." After saying that, old man Zhang stood up again. "Forget it, I'll go and invite him in person." Since they showed sincerity, it meant that they did not want to fight with their sharpshooting group blindly. If you are still putting on airs, you are being shameless. Old man Zhang went to invite him personally. On the one hand, he expressed his sincerity, but on the other hand, he was worried that things would be screwed up by those pig teammates who were low-minded and high-handed. After all, such cases are not rare. Mr. Zhang went out to greet him in person, which naturally caused quite a stir. The subordinates who had laughed at Su Tong before were all shocked. Except for the leader and his wife, even the core members of the gunslingers have never seen old man Zhang so enthusiastic. When old man Zhang came to Su Tong, he not only scolded the subordinates surrounding Su Tong, but also politely invited Su Tong to come in front of everyone. I don't know how many players were shocked. Who is this person who can make the chief executive of the sharpshooter regiment come out in person? Some people who didn't know the truth started talking about it. Although the general manager of the sharpshooter regiment is not a core member, his status is not low at all. Being able to welcome him in person in front of everyone is a huge honor. The news spread, and many tea houses and taverns were discussing it. But there are also discerning people who see through the crux of the problem at a glance. After hearing the news, an old blind man outside the casino couldn't help but grinned and said with a sneer, "Old man Zhang gave up easily. If he was playing dirty tricks and the other party was defeated, he would suffer huge losses." After saying that, he frowned again. I don't know which young man dared to blatantly take advantage of the big family and take advantage of the spear gods. It's interesting. It's really, hey, brother, I see that your seal is dark. Bet 9 times and lose. Before he finished speaking, the old blind man hurriedly caught up with someone and started cheating. On the other side, Su Tong was taken to a quiet room by old man Zhang. After the two of them took their seats, Su Tong smiled and said, "Thank you for the elixir you gave me last time. I made a fortune relying on the elixir you gave me. What you say makes several stewards around you want to scold you. How can you make a fortune? You are simply a tiger lying on our bodies sucking blood." However, they only dared to mutter this in their hearts and did not dare to say a word. After all, when they heard the news before, they laughed from ear to ear and called each other a big fool. Now this slap in the face will hurt as much as it hurts. Old man Zhang City is very good, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times when he heard these words, but he was telling the truth. Haha, good, good, it's good to make a fortune. Old man Zhang had a helpless face and could only put on a smile. A slap on the left cheek was not enough, and he had to take the initiative to slap the right cheek. Su Tong continued to tell the truth like a fool who didn't understand the world. I have only used a little of the 2 boxes of pills that my senior gave me. I don't know how long it will take to sell them all. When you sell out, I will stop opening this store. Old man John cursed in his heart, feeling both regretful and lucky. What I regret is that I gave away 2 large boxes of enlightenment pills, but fortunately I only gave away 2 boxes. Su Tong picked up the teacup and took a sip. His voice suddenly became distressed again. It's just that my seniors gave too many gifts, and I don't know when to sell them myself. Is this the trouble of making money? Oh, so sad. Believe what a ghost you are, everyone was roaring in their hearts. This man was really shameless to the extreme. Old man Zhang was also disgusted, but after all, he had been in shopping malls for a long time and could still understand the meaning of Su Hua. After waving, a steward brought the prepared things and placed them on the table. This is. Su Tong glanced at the box on the table and asked, pretending to be surprised. I understand, brother, I understand what you mean. It's really troublesome to sell like this. It just so happens that what I'm short of here is elixirs like yours. I'll give you a price and I'll give you a discount. I think it's a favor to my brother. I'll give you these elixirs all collected. Hearing this, Su Tong opened the box and saw a gift list with 3 things written on it. 3 high-level prop cards. A high-level privilege blessing scroll. And 4 million script points. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 819. Seeing this, Su Tong quietly closed the box and said with a hint of confusion, this price. Old man Zhang hurriedly said, good brother, just think of it as helping me. I will definitely keep this favor in mind. Hey, that's all right, brother said so, brother, even if I lose my capital, I can't let you suffer, brother, that's it. Su Tong chose his tone and sounded like he had suffered a big loss and was only doing it for the sake of charity, which really made the stewards around him itch with hatred. 4 million script points, this is the net profit of the entire Mochizuki epifilm in the first quarter. Such a large amount of money really hit their bones. What's more, there are 3 high-level prop cards and a high-level privilege scroll. The total value of these 4 items is at least 500,000. When I think of this, I feel like I want to cut Su Tong into pieces with 1,000 cuts. But as Mr. Zhang said, the shopping mall is like a battlefield. The winner and the loser cannot blame others. Moreover, this is already the best result. If Su Tong really wants to disperse all those pills, it is estimated that it will take at least 5 years to watch the Moonlight Night Flower. It was in the red every quarter. Once Mochizuki epifilm loses too much, it will even affect the refining factory and Sangxian pharmacy. At that time, the losses will further expand, and even affect the logistics of the entire sharpshooter regiment. The loss at that time will be more than just a quarter's profit. Soon the items on the gift list were delivered. Su Tong glanced at the 3 high-level prop cards. They were all good things, but they were of little use to him. However, he could give them to Gao Zhou and the others, which would greatly enhance their strength. As for the high-level privileged scroll, Su Tong couldn't help but frown slightly when he picked it up and looked at it. High-level privilege scroll super double. After using it, the income and ratings obtained in this script world will be super doubled. Note, this prop is not valid for LV5 certified players. This thing is quite good. I nodded secretly in my heart. After receiving all these items, I returned the 2 large boxes of pills, enlightenment pills, intact to old man Zhang. I still have something to do, brother, let's see you later. After getting the thing, Su Tong didn't plan to stay here any longer. After all, if you plucked a bunch of hair from the tiger's butt, it would either be stiff or horizontal, and of course it would be sheer stupidity in most cases. Okay, the days are long. If there is a chance next time, we 2 brothers will work together again. Although old man Zhang really wanted to strangle Su Tong to death, he still had to save his face in the end. After signaling to several general managers to send Su Tong away, old man Zhang looked back at the 2 boxes. After opening it and confirming that the quantity was about the same, I couldn't help but sigh. The 2 boxes that were given away for free came back to him in a roundabout way, but this time around, he paid a heavy price. Even old man Zhang couldn't help but sigh and lamented the uncertainty of fate. Then he had the 2 boxes sealed and placed in the Hall of Repentance for worship, and he also had to record the incident verbatim. As a failure case, as a warning. After all, the price this time was too high. As the saying goes, some are happy and some are worried. Moonlight Epiphyllum was almost crying, and Su Tong was almost crazy with joy when he looked at the funds in the team's warehouse. What is the concept of 1,000,000 script points? It is just like an ordinary working class person who suddenly won a Mark 6 lottery jackpot and won hundreds of millions. The day before, I was worrying about firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea, but in the blink of an eye, I suddenly had wealth that no one else could earn in a lifetime. Isn't this crazy? Even taking off my clothes and running naked in the street would not be enough to express my inner joy. But when the burst of ecstasy ended, Su Tong and the others suddenly discovered that they were actually no different from ordinary people. At least in the face of money, all living beings were equal. Faced with the sudden huge sum of money, they quickly fell into confusion. How to spend such a large sum of money? If this was real wealth and they were just ordinary people, it would be easy to handle. It would be nothing more than buying a house, land, a car, and property, and they would be safe and prosperous from now on. However, they are different. They are players. If money cannot be reasonably converted into their own power, then they may end up burping at any time in the next script world. By then, no matter how many treasures you have, no matter how many script points you have, they will all be in vain. Moreover, after this incident, Su Tong felt more afraid of a super team like the Gunslingers. For them, 4,000,000 script points is painful, but it is far from breaking the bones. No, the pain is only for the logistics manager at the level of old man Yu Zhang. As for the core members of the Gun Gods, I'm afraid they may not feel too much pain about this number. Moreover, the Gun Gods are not just an industry. A large number of scripts and resources surround the Gun Gods for them to use. 4,000,000 script points. Su Tong even suspected that someone might buy a prop, and the price would not be much lower than this. Thinking of this, the ecstasy in Su Tong's heart instantly cooled down. As the saying goes, you are not afraid of comparing goods with others, but you are afraid of comparing yourself with others. You think you are doing very well, but when you compare yourself to others, you instantly feel that you are nothing more than that. Having seen the tip of the iceberg of the Gun Gods, how could Su Tong not be touched in his heart? He wanted to become bigger and stronger and truly become a strong player, and he would inevitably come into contact with the Gun Gods in the future. After all, the world's resources are limited. If you want to become bigger and stronger, you have to fight for them. If Taoist Dong Xian knew about Su Tong's idea, he would definitely be particularly pleased, because he said the same thing when he persuaded Zhang Haisheng to kill Su Tong, and he said it clearly. It's a pity that Zhang Haisheng is soft-hearted after all and cannot be as ruthless as Taoist Dong Xian. Su Tong didn't have any psychological burden. He figured out the joints and knew how to spend the money. The script points of 300,000 per person are at your disposal, and the remaining 2.8 million script points will be sealed. Su Tong will use the 2.8 million script points to purchase properties when his rank reaches LV4. Hearing Su Tong's words, Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai didn't have any objections. 300,000 script points was a windfall for them. It is enough for them to update their prop cards in the high-end exhibition area, replacing shotguns with cannons. Su Tong also gave the 3 high-level prop cards to the 3 of them, allowing them to take them as needed. After the assignments were made, Su Tong plunged into the training ground and began to think about his latest Yanshu achievements. Over the past few days, Su Tong spent nearly 10,000 script points on the training ground, but the effect was also visible to the naked eye. With the help of Enlightenment Pill at 9, Su Tong first upgraded Tai Chi Sword Technique, Fiery Sword Technique, and Fire Addiction to the full level, and raised the proficiency of these basic prop cards to the full level. Su Tong then sold the Tai Chi Swordsman prop card directly to the exhibition hall. This basic sword technique has been thoroughly understood by him. Even without the support of prop cards, his attainments in Tai Chi sword technique have still reached an extremely high level. Then came the Chunyang sword code. This is a practice method and one of the passives that comes with the pure Yang sword. After Daozhan, most of the prop cards in Su Tong's hands have reached the point where they need to be updated. But the pure Yang sword is still his main combat weapon. Once you transform into a pure Yang body, with the pure Yang sword, your strength can be increased several times. You can even rely on the divine power of the sword to kill a strong person in the Dao realm with the Dao realm. Now that you have killed the Dao realm, you rely more on this divine sword. Therefore, Chunyang Jiandian became the focus of Su Tong's care, and the effect of the Enlightenment Pill was reflected at this time. With the Ad 9 Enlightenment Pill, coupled with the blessing of Chuan Wu, Su Tong's effect in the training ground far exceeded that of the blessing in the training room of Wanjiao Epiphyllum. This is why, after Mr. Zhang saw this pill, he completely gave up the idea of fighting Su Tong to the death. I saw a stream of pure Yang Qi slowly rising up and swirling around Su Tong, but it soon gradually dissipated. Can I only cultivate to the 6th level? Su Tong frowned. Chunyang Sword Dian himself had already touched the threshold of the 7th level. With the passive effect of Chunyang Sword, he could gain an additional level of blessing. Coupled with the fetters of the title of the Rebel series, you can get the Add 1 effect of all skills, reaching the strength of the 8-fold sword code. It's just that although the 8th level pure Yang sword code and the 9th level are only one level apart, their power is completely different. Thinking of this, Su Tong moved his fingers slightly, and his fingertips inspired a stream of pure Yang sword energy. The sword energy was like a rainbow, instantly smashing the puppets in the training ground in front of him. It seems that the alcoholic lunatic I met back then is undoubtedly the current swordsman. Su Tong felt goosebumps all over his body when he thought of the image of the alcoholic lunatic slaying a dragon with one sword when he was in the palace. The opponent's cultivation may not be as strong as his own at the moment, but his swordsmanship has reached a level that would shock the world and make ghosts and gods cry. I couldn't understand the power of it before, but now that I have cultivated the Chunyang sword code, I can clearly feel how big the difference is. At least at this moment, I was still far from being able to pull out my sword and slay the dragon like a drunkard madman, breaking the fate of the dragons of the Qing dynasty. It is no exaggeration to say that he is the swordsman of the world. I don't know if there will be a chance to see this alcoholic lunatic again. He muttered to himself, then lowered his head and remained silent for a while. He had an exquisite mind and the blessing of the Enlightenment Pill. After careful consideration, he understood why he couldn't achieve the 7th level if he didn't cultivate. He knew the reason, but Su Tong was not anxious for a while. After calculating the time, I guessed that the master should be back. It just so happened that I would go to see the master first, and it would not be too late to talk about the rest of the things after he came back. After making up his mind, Su Tong stood up and left the training room, leaving the exhibition and returning to the room with one thought. When I opened the door and took a look, I saw that the boy Chang Wuju was not at home. However, after thinking about it, I realized that with so many script points in hand, with his temperament, he must have gone to the exhibition to be cool. When Su Tong saw this, he simply went out by himself, took a taxi and went straight to the old city. He bought Master's favorite sauce meat, and brought a lot of delicious snacks with him. An empty house with no one in it disappeared from the world after using Beishan Cow. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 820. The Immortal is back. The eldest princess sat on the treetop, looking at Su Tong up and down with a smile. "Hey, it's for you." Su Tong casually threw a bottle to the eldest princess, which was a Ad9 enlightenment pill. There were only 5 pills. After all, the probability of success of this thing was actually not high. There is a 1/10 chance that Su Tong spent money to do it. Before, I just tried to coax old man Zhang. If the losses caused by the failed refining were included, the cost of this elixir would be far more than that. This thing is useful to me, and it will definitely be helpful to the eldest princess. The eldest princess took the elixir and with one look, she knew that the elixir was a good thing, so she took it without any courtesy. "You should keep your composure. Your master thought you should have come yesterday." Su Tong raised his head and said with a smile, "What's the point of being so angry? My own master, and father-in-law can only do this, how can they still harm me?" This is definitely not a courtesy from Su Tong. From the moment Old Song left the old house to him, Old Song has been his relative, closer than blood relatives, not to mention his master, who has also taught him everything. It would be a lie to say no kiss. "Okay, I know you share the same love as father and son." The eldest princess covered her mouth and chuckled, but then she thought of something. She looked at the bottle in her hand, and after a moment of silence she said, "By the way, I'm leaving." "Ah." Su Tong was stunned and looked at the eldest princess. "Where are you going?" "Leave, you are now in the Dao-slaying realm, a land god. According to the agreement between me and your master, when you reach the Dao-slaying realm, you will give me your freedom." The eldest princess stretched out her palm and saw a diamond-shaped chip in her palm. It was the part of the soul that Shuigui had extracted from the eldest princess's soul. Now that this soul appears in the hands of the eldest princess, it means that she is free and no longer controlled by her master. The sudden change caught Su Tong off guard. "Do we have to leave? In the past, our presence could boost your luck, but now that you are in the Daozhan realm, our presence will only weaken your luck, and..." At this point, the eldest princess sighed, "And it will also destroy us." Opportunity. Us. Hearing these 2 words, Su Tong frowned. The old Taoist wants to leave too. There is always a banquet in the world. When the time comes, he will leave too. Hearing the words of the eldest princess, Su Tong felt a sense of disappointment in his heart, but he also understood in his heart that the eldest princess was not the kind of woman who was willing to stay here, like a bird in a cage or a canary. Now that she had decided to leave, he was bound to stay. Can't help but ask, "Then when will you leave?" "I'll leave when the time is right. I'll say hello to you in advance to avoid being sad when we part." Rare. Su Tong waved his hand, "I'm going to see master first." After saying that, he lowered his head and walked back. When he reached the door, he saw the old man squatting on the threshold and looking at him with a smile. The young master is back. When Su Tong saw Lao Dao, he opened his mouth and held back what he wanted to say. He just said, "Your body." "No hurry, no hurry. I want to leave, but I have to go to the sun world. My body cannot come back for the time being. The young master has kept it for me. When I come back, I still have to use that stinky skin." The old Taoist was free and easy. Su Tong nodded and handed him the prepared enlightenment pill. The old Taoist couldn't help but his eyes lit up after taking the elixir. What a good thing. It just so happens that the poor Taoist also has something for the young master. The old man took out a pack of tobacco from his sleeve and handed it to him. Last time I saw that you were almost out of tobacco. I specially reserved this for you. Save some of it. Su Tong looked at the tobacco, nodded, put away the tobacco, and then walked through the door. As soon as they entered the door, they saw Mr. May, Master, and Master sitting in the pavilion drinking tea. When they saw Su Tong coming, the three of them looked at each other and started laughing loudly. Look, when you say CAO 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 is here, you really can't talk behind others' backs. The three of them laughed, but Su Tong couldn't be happy anymore. He stepped forward and greeted the three of them politely. Greetings to Master, Master, and Mr. May. Sit down, let me take a good look at it. Land gods are very rare even in the Sui and Tang dynasties. Mr. Song took Su Tong and quickly sat down, looking up and down Su Tong's body. His face was so happy that he couldn't open his mouth from ear to ear. No wonder Song Laojin was so happy to see Su Tong, a land fairy. This was a real fairy. Just because he had a land fairy, Song Laojin's tail almost stood up. Shuigui on the side couldn't stand Mr. Song's arrogance and rolled his eyes at the old boy. I taught you Shankao, and Yanshu was taught by Mr. May. You just took advantage of it and saw what you can do. Hey, if I didn't take advantage of you, how could I have gotten such a good disciple like you? Not only was Mr. Song not ashamed, but he was proud of it, leaving Shuigui at a loss as to what to say. On the side, Mr. May pinched his beard and smiled when he heard this. This is fate. Everything has fate. This is fate. Who would have thought that the seven gates would go around in a circle for the last time, not only recognize their ancestors and return to the clan, but they would end up on the branch of Mei Lao. Shuigui also sighed for a moment. Ha 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 ha, this is also the blessing that you, Mr. Shui, took heaven's heart as your own heart and risked your life to fight for it. Seeing the three old men at home starting a new round of business disputes, Su Tong could only cough twice and looked at the master. Master, do you want to leave with me and the princess? Hearing Su Tong's inquiry, Shuigui nodded. We have already made an agreement with them, and each has his or her own fate. As soon as the master said this, Su Tong simply stopped asking. After taking out all the snacks and sauced meats he bought, Mr. Song raised his nose and immediately grinned and gritted his teeth. Hey, the sauced pork from the Song family in Kyoto, you are a good boy, master, I love you. Mr. Song had not eaten his favorite sauced pork for a long time, and he immediately became greedy when he saw the sauced pork. It seemed that he liked this restaurant's sauced pork more than Ilong and Fudu. Su Tong conveniently brought out the wine. After all, the May family had so much aged wine that they could just leave it alone if they weren't going to drink it. Just wait for the cup to be changed, and the wine has passed 3 rounds. Su Tongke asked about this trip to the underworld. Master, why exactly? Even if I am a pawn, I always have to understand that I will die. Shuigui put down his wine glass, considered his words, and then asked, what do you think? Nothing to think about. Su Tong spread his hands and said that he came to ask you because he didn't know anything. For military power. When Shuigui saw this, he stopped beating around the bush. The war between gods has never ended. It was fought in the past, it is fought now, and it will be fought in the future. It's just that you don't fight in the 3 realms, but in places outside the 3 realms, which is where you often go. Obviously the place the master is referring to is the script world. It can be understood that the battle between gods is always a struggle in the world of the script. There are not only the forces of gods from the underworld, but also the forces of other gods. Even collisions between gods are not uncommon. Mei Xian on the side interjected at this moment. Plum Blossom Taoist was once like you, and he often entered it. Like you, every time he comes back, his strength will explode a lot. Hearing this, Su Tong's pupils tightened and he thought to himself, could it be that Taoist Mai Hua was once a player? But then I thought about it and felt that something was wrong. There should not have been the title of player in that era. Just when Su Tong was shocked by Mei Lao's words, the master Shui Gui on the side threw another depth bomb. It's not surprising. Many people have been there in history, but the name of that place has been completely different throughout the ages. This matter has not been a shocking secret within the three religions for a long time, it is just kept secret. The amount of information in these words was astonishing. Even though Su Tong was mentally prepared, he was also shocked. The master was even afraid that he wouldn't understand, so he dipped his fingers in the wine and drew a Tai Chi diagram on the table. As the saying goes, the way of yin and yang, our ancestors have understood things thoroughly a long time ago. Everything has yin and yang, and the same is true in the world. He pointed to the sunny side of the Tai Chi diagram, this is reality. History, civilization, myths, and legends are all on this side. Then he pointed to the dark side, this side can be understood as the mirror world, which reflects people, objects, and things in reality. But just like the reflection on the water, things that are closer to objects can still be illuminated clearly, but things that are far away can be clearly illuminated. Will be blurred or even distorted. Then he pointed to the line in the middle of the Tai Chi diagram, this is the place where the gods live. There will always be some mortals who will be guided in, thereby entering the realm world, and completing what the gods hope to accomplish in the realm world. There are even some people who have become a part of the gods step by step. The master's words instantly overturned Su Tong's understanding of the world of the script. The content was so large that even he needed to pause for a moment to digest it carefully. The master also took advantage of this free moment and didn't forget to pick up a chopstick and put the sauced meat in his mouth. If he didn't take another bite, he, the unscrupulous person, would finish it. Old ghost do, he gave us the right to monitor yin and yang and let us arrest those evil gods and evil gods. Is he so kind? In the final analysis, it is because he cannot get out. Although he has soldiers, he has no power. Although he is in a high position, he is tightly bound. So he wants power and wants to get rid of the shackles. What should he do? I have to find an excuse. This time the female envoy came and brought the corpse of Fu Yi, the general who guarded the realm in the underworld. Although she came to make peace, the motive behind it was not that simple. I don't know what it is specifically, but it should be to compete with the gods for a place. Related to the place. The master pinched his beard and sneered, but this girl underestimated the appetite of these ghost kings and emperors, and that's why she was killed. So the blame is placed on Po Meng. When Su Tong heard this, he suddenly realized. The master nodded, this old woman has a huge backstage. If she takes the blame, there is nothing she can do. When the time comes, they will have no choice but to start a war with the Western gods. This is what Du Ziren and the others are waiting for. Once the war starts, they will have the opportunity to escape from the underworld go out. After the master explained everything he knew clearly in one breath, he sighed, we only found out about this later, and it was too late to inform you. This is also your own fate. Fortunately, you are safe and sound, otherwise. The master looked ashamed. He didn't expect that this incident would almost harm Su Tong. Master, this matter has nothing to do with you. If anything, it's Du Ziren and the others who owe me. It's just that I'm not strong enough to ask him for justice. Su Tong knew very well the so-called rule, which was that the weak should eat the strong. In the eyes of Du Ziren and other ghost emperors like him, a little ant like himself was flattering himself by being just a chess piece. To strike, you need to be tough. If you want justice, you must have the strength to demand justice. Seeing that Su Tong could understand the truth, Shui Gui felt relieved a lot and took out a small box from his sleeve, This thing was given to you by Mr. Du in front of Mr. Fu to ask for merit a treasure. Su Tong was waiting for this treasure, so he quickly took it and saw that there was sealing paint on the box. Obviously, Master and the others didn't know what was in the box. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, Su Tong opened the box and looked inside. The smile on his face instantly froze. The box was empty, except for a piece of paper with 7 words clearly written on it, a special gift of a golden pine nut.